9:22 on the calendar in the matter of Schroeder versus Weeks. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Schroeder, the defendant is your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm having a little bit trouble hearing you.
Okay, I will speak louder. Your wife passed away recently,
Yes.
and it is your claim that your daughter took certain jewelry of your wife's that you would like back.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what this claim is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter says that it was your wife's wish that she have this jewelry.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Weeks, was this the only property that your mother left?
She left some other family heirlooms and personal property, but nothing of significant value.
I assume that that's a box. Is that a box?
This is the watch that he claims, and the ring was my mother's.
I'd like to see both, please. Were your parents, Miss Weeks, estranged at the time of her death?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Well, in September of 1999, my mother was placed in an adult family home.
What was her illness?
Her diagnosis was multiple sclerosis at that time, and she was falling a lot. She was being left alone a lot, and Adult Protective Services were involved because of the fire department having to, she had one of those life call buttons, and the fire department was called to the house quite frequently to pick her up, and they felt that she was in a neglectful situation because she was not being properly cared for. And so Adult Protective Services started searching for alternative living arrangements for her.
And according to the complaint that I've read and your answer, there came a time around 1999 where you were given by your mother power of attorney.
That is correct.
Subsequently, in 2000, you were appointed her guardian.
That is correct.
Was her diagnosis ever modified from multiple sclerosis to something else?
Not officially, no.
All right. Now, what I found interesting about your answer was that in 2000 you were in fact appointed her guardian.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the court found that she was unable to take care of herself and make decisions for herself.
That is correct.
When was it that your mother told you that she wanted you to have this jewelry?
October, November of '99.
Did you take the jewelry at that time?
I did. And later, early part of 2000, she asked for me to give her back her ring because she wanted to wear it.
And she wore it until she died?
Yes, ma'am.
I do not want to get involved in, because I don't think it's necessary to estrange the two of you any further. Do you have siblings?
Yes.
How many?
I have 3 brothers and a sister.
Are you in touch with your other children, sir? Do you have any contact with your other children?
Pardon me?
Do you have any contact with your other
No, I
children?
don't.
So you have no contact with any of your children?
Even my youngest boy got up and left at the funeral when my wife, her services were, and my daughter, to my immediate left, didn't even take the time to go to her mother's funeral.
Ms. Weeks, very briefly, can you tell me why all of the children, from your perspective, don't have contact with their father? Your parents were married for, according to this, 47 years.
Yes. My father, from the time we were small children, was very abusive towards the 5 of us children, as well as my mother. And I have the Guardian ad litem report that has statements to that effect, if you would like to see that. And he was never supportive of any of our decisions or anything that we felt we wanted to do, and was very mean, has said very mean and hateful things towards my middle brother, to the point where
so it's a whole history.
Yeah, it's a very, very long and sordid history.
But, Ms. Weeks, doesn't it strike you that in early 2000, your mother wanted her wedding rings back? Why do you think she wanted her wedding rings back?
She'd been married and wearing them for 40 years, and she missed wearing them. And
that's usually a symbolic thing.
It was a symbolic thing, yes.
She missed wearing them.
Yes.
I understand that you had gotten a protective order so that he didn't go to the nursing home after a certain point. At what point did he stop going to the nursing home?
In February of 2000 is when the order of protection was put into place. due to his behavior when he did visit her and phone calls that he made when he called her there.
I am going to try to resolve this issue as I think as wisely as I can. Your mother gave you this watch in 1999.
No, the watch, Bob gave her that watch late last year. If he wants that watch back, he can have that watch back. That watch has no significant sentimental value to me whatsoever. What has value to me are my mother's things. He abandoned their home, and if I hadn't retrieved the few family heirlooms that I had retrieved from the home, they would have been in the city dump.
I'm talking about these two things, Mrs. Weeks.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I can understand probably each of the children wanting to have a memento, something
Yes, ma'am.
to look at and to touch of their mothers. I can also understand from your father's perspective. Are you living alone now, sir?
I'm living, I have my own room. I'm taking care of a 90 lady that will soon be 91 years old.
But this is somebody that you care for. This is a job.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why you want these wedding rings back, Mr. Schroeder.
I bought those rings for my wife 47 years ago. I gave my wife the first ring at her home at East Indiana when I was invited to supper by her mother, who has passed away. I feel I'm entitled to these rings. I paid for them since my daughter has made such terrible accusations about me, which are all unprovable. And I feel that I should have the rings and the watch back, plus other things that she took out of the home.
We're not talking about other things,
All right.
Mr. Schroeder. We're talking about the
ring
watch
and the watch. Yes, ma'am.
and the rings. Now, let me ask you this question, Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, ma'am.
If you had to make a choice between the watch and the rings as a memento, which would you want?
I want them both, Your Honor. I paid for them.
That's not the answer, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Schroeder says his daughter, Julie Weeks, won't return his late wife's possessions. Julie says it was her mother's wish that she have the items.
Are they of equal importance to you?
Yes, ma'am.
You feel the same way. One was a gift to your wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you telling me, Mr. Schroeder, that each of these items are as important to you as the other?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to ask you the same question, Miss Weeks. If I were to ask you which of these items, memento from your mother, is more important to you, which would it be?
It would be her ring. I wear it every day.
Give her, Miss Weeks, the ring. Give Mr. Schroeder the watch. Mr. Schroeder, that was the wrong answer, sir. The fact that you paid for them and they were yours is not the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell you why, Mr. Schroeder. Children don't replace emotionally the loss of a parent, in this case, their mother. Sometimes mates replace emotionally their mate. They may never forget, but they replace emotionally. If you said to me, I want the rings back because we were married with those rings, she wore those rings for 47 years, they're part of our history, I want them, I would have given you the rings. And you have to understand that, Miss Weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
But to you, it didn't make any difference. You said to me, I paid for both. They're equally as important to me, so I want them both. Well, I knew that they weren't equally as important to your daughter, right?
That's right.
You have the watch, you have the rings, you probably never make up, I assume. Is that right?
That is correct, ma'am.
I assume so. That's very sad, but
It is sad.
you're a grown-up adult, and he probably is a lonely old man who doesn't have at this point in his life the support of his children or his grandchildren. I assume you don't see your grandchildren either.
No, I have a call regularly from Mary Ann in Florida.
Well, Mr. Schroeder, you should do a little
Mary
bit.
Ann is It's Julie's oldest daughter.
How old are you, sir? How old are you?
70 years old.
Well, that's not so old, Mr. Schroeder. There's still time for you to try to do something to get back into the good graces of your family. But you also have to look at yourself and say, what is it that I did over the last 45 years to my family that makes them all cut me off? Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was. Thank you very much. The case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I've tried to be kind to Bob. I've tried to show him care, and every time I open up and try to be kind to the man, he is hateful towards me.
I hope that someday that I can get to a point where I can see my grandchildren.
He has made the decision about his family.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Schwab versus Fadin. Step forward, please.
Office manager Bonnie Schwab is suing travel agent Giancarlo Fadin for the cost of 2 tickets to Greece. Bonnie says she won the tickets in a raffle, and Giancarlo reneged on the prize.
Miss Schwab, you were the lucky winner of 2 tickets to Greece
Yes, I was.
about 2 years ago.
May of 2000.
And where did you win these tickets?
At the Valley Greek Festival that they have every year in May.
Was it a raffle ticket?
It was a raffle ticket. A girl I work with, her children go to school there, and I bought tickets.
And due to circumstances, according to your complaint, you were unable to use the tickets for a while. The defendant had donated the tickets. You have a travel agency, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you want to use the airline tickets. The defendant says you waited too long. That's your defense. Is that pretty much it?
Pretty much it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bonnie Schwab says after entering a raffle at a Greek festival, she won 2 tickets to Greece. Bonnie claims travel agent Giancarlo Fadin is trying to renege on the prize.
Do you have a copy of the stub, your contest stub, or any other literature from the
I
contest?
have a letter from the church stating that I won first prize in the raffle.
Okay. All right, and that was in May of 2000.
Right.
Did you schedule the trip?
We scheduled a trip. Mr. Fadin gave us an itinerary when we went to see him in
Who's
January.
we?
My boyfriend at the time. We went to see him, and he wrote us an itinerary. We discussed with him that we would like to go to Italy. Mr. Fadin said we could go to Italy instead of Greece, so he prepared an itinerary. At
And
that
this
time
was done in January?
of 2001,
And when were you planning to take the trip?
May of 2001. Subsequently, due to circumstances beyond my control, I was not able to go with my boyfriend. So I called Christine, Mr. Fadin's wife, and asked them if I could put the trip off until October of that year. And they agreed to, of 2001, and they agreed that they would do that.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then what happened?
Well, then the summer passed, and then September 11th happened. I was afraid to travel, especially to Europe. Being an American, I didn't know what would happen. The airlines and the airports were crazy. So I wrote them a letter and faxed it to them in October, and I received no response. I asked them to call me.
Do you have a copy of that letter?
Yes, I do.
Okay, do you acknowledge receiving a letter from her?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, we have a standard letter that we send to the organization. We donate to the Italian community, in this case the Greek community, because we specialize travel to Europe, especially Italy
Yes.
and Greece. And the letter pretty much states to
Well,
the-
let me take a look at the letter that you say that you send to
Okay.
everybody, but
Correct.
you didn't send it to the plaintiff.
well, we
No.
wouldn't have, because we would have sent it to church.
No, but you,
I never saw that
just a
letter.
second. You say here that the tickets are valid for 1 year from the date of the prize drawing, and this is dated March 15th of 2000. I have no idea when this was typed, Mr. Fadin, but certainly you cannot impugn the information here to the plaintiff unless it was written on the stub that you know, grand prize, 2 tickets to Greece. Trip must be taken within 1 year.
We donate the tickets to the church with the intent of creating goodwill in the community. The church is then raffling and selling the tickets and collecting the money from, in this case, Ms. Swap, and we have no responsibility on that.
You do. You have responsibility for the 2 tickets, sir. First of all, you agreed to put...
We have donated the 2 tickets to church.
No, you have donated the 2 tickets, not to St. Nicholas Church, Mr. Fade. You have donated the tickets to be used as part of a raffle. I don't see what your problem is, Mr. Faden. It would seem to be now, if you wanted to purchase 2 tickets to Greece, it would be a lot cheaper than it was 2 years ago.
Well, let me explain. After September 11, my company lost $200,000. When the lady called to postpone her trip, I wasn't even sure that I would be in business the following spring.
But you are in business.
Well, thank you. I worked very hard for it.
Good, but you are in business, so you have to give her tickets.
I would like to call my witness at a certain point, Your Honor.
To say what?
Because she really dealt with pristine strategy most of the time.
More than happy to hear from the witness if she has something else to say.
No, I can stand. Your Honor, I don't know exactly what to say. I think I do understand that there was perhaps a miscommunication between the agency and the church and perhaps Ms. Schwab. However, when September 11th came, again, as Giancarlo has said, we really didn't know where we stood, and perhaps it's difficult for somebody who doesn't work in the travel industry to understand. There were literally envelopes, I mean loads of tickets coming back. Every phone call was a cancellation. It came so late. It came 2 years later, and I understand
well, it didn't come 2 years later. It came 1.5 years later.
1.5 years later.
And you had already agreed to allow her to take the trip in October.
I understand that.
So
but
if
again,
you allowed her to take the trip in October, despite the fact that you really didn't have any choice, but you said, okay, you want to travel in October, and then the events of September 11th, which you acknowledge devastated your business.
Totally.
You had no time to respond to this letter that she sent.
No,
because you were
really.
trying to
I
keep
was
your
too
heads
busy
above water.
Correct.
So you acknowledge that it was a tumultuous time.
Absolutely.
In your world, it was this important. This whole trip was...
It seems as though it's been changed.
It has been changed to less than it was.
Okay.
If you look very carefully, it's been changed to, I looked at that myself. It's been changed to a lesser amount.
Those
Not
aren't
a
my
great,
initials, by the way.
That's your signature, however. I've
That
compared
is
it
my
with the signature on the answer. That is your signature.
It is.
So now you remember signing that agreement.
I did,
Good. Now may I have it, please?
but not for that amount.
No, not true, sir. Because the original amount on this was some $1,500 and some odd dollars, and that was changed because the Sprint bill was not $200 and some odd dollars, but only $115. So it was reduced. You see that? It was reduced, not increased.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. You signed it. How much of this did you pay?
At the time, I wasn't able to pay.
Not at the time. At any time. How much of this did you pay?
$400.
Okay. Is that how much you paid back?
She paid back $350.
No, he said 400. You have proof of 400?
Yes, I do. I have canceled checks. I also paid in money orders, and I don't have the receipts for those.
Okay.
But I'll be honest and say he did pay me $350, even though he doesn't have the proof of that.
Okay. $1,130. That's what's left
Correct.
on the debt. Mm-hmm. And you're suing him for $2,028. Explain that to me.
Actually, on the lease agreement he signed, it says that he must give me a 30-day, 1-month notice prior to moving out. And when
Did you have a roommate before he moved in?
his friend actually moved in at the same time, and they both had the same agreement.
I asked you a question. I want you to give me the answer. Did you have a roommate before he moved in?
We all moved in at the exact same time, basically.
Are you still living in the same place?
Yes, I am.
With whom?
I have roommates now.
Okay. Now, you left, sir, November 2nd,
Yes, that's correct.
2001. Does your lease agreement provide that you give her 30 days' notice?
Yes, it does.
Did you?
No, I did not.
Why?
Because she caused me to lose my job and sabotaged my career.
Okay, now let me hear your reason why she caused you to lose your job.
Okay. At the time, I had a job a regular job as a guitar player in a successful rock band. We were touring and we were on the East Coast, and I borrowed the money from her because our singer had an accident and broke a rib. I didn't have any money to pay the bill at the time, and so she offered to pay it, and I accepted. She said that I could pay her back when I had the money. However, over the next few months, she became very jealous, and it started getting really out of hand. She started calling me nonstop. She started going through my mail. She started going down my phone bill and calling every number on the phone bill. As a matter of fact, I have a phone bill here where her notes are evident, where she was looking for whether it would be a man or a woman answering the phone, and whether or not she would approve.
I still don't understand how she caused you to lose your job.
She was very jealous, and so when I was out on the road touring with a rock band, there are inherently situations that arise where women can get crazy, and she was aware of this, and she became very jealous, and she wanted me to come back to Los Angeles really bad. So what she did was she started to call the singer's wife.
Did you call the singer's wife?
She's a close friend of mine.
What kind of conversation did you have with her?
I asked her if she had heard from her husband because Mark hadn't called me in a week, and he was my boyfriend at the time, and I was very concerned and worried because I had just gone through his pants pocket and found a phone number from a girl, which I called, who is a dancer, a stripper in New Orleans. And I spoke to her on the phone, and she did confirm, you know, that she had been talking to Mark, and she actually forwarded me the emails that Mark had sent her. So it did actually confirm that he was
Okay, so what did you
cheating on me.
call this woman for?
She's just my friend. I just wanted to know if she had heard from them. I was trying to call him and contact him because we were in a relationship. So if I hadn't heard from him in 3 days, I was very upset. I was seeing, you know, I was under stress, and I was seeing, you know, I had lost some of my hair because of stress. I mean, it was just very, very bad. But he actually, after I found out,
how did that cause you to lose your job?
She's told her so many stories that she finally, the singer's wife that is, finally started to call the singer and tell him that she was filing for divorce, she was going to take their daughter, and that he would never see them again. And in order to keep the peace in his family, he had to let me go.
That's
I would
not
have
true.
done
I
the
don't know
same
if that's
thing.
true, so that's a lot of compromises.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Did you borrow her pants? Don't tell me I don't want to hear
Yes, I borrowed them.
All right, now, when did your cousin borrow them?
Yeah.
Oh, God, give me strength.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sherry Eckert says ex-boyfriend Mark Zavon owes for rent and for unpaid loans. Mark says Sherry is holding his belongings.
All right. You all moved into this apartment together? Is
That's
that right?
correct.
And each of you were to pay $500 a month?
That's correct.
Each?
Yes.
Okay. So he owes you $1,630. He didn't give you a month's notice. That's so far. You have a counterclaim, sir, for $5,000. He claimed that she caused you to lose your job.
That's correct.
That would be the reason that you just gave me, that you called the singer's wife and complained and told her a whole bunch of stories. Which,
Yeah, he was very happy. Excuse me.
that the singer is not here, the wife is not here.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's all hearsay. That's somewhere out here that I don't hear. All right, now the next thing that you're counterclaiming for is personal property that you say that she sold at a garage sale. What's the nature of the personal property?
Well, it's basically things like a mountain bike, camping gear, grill.
Why didn't you take that with you when you moved out?
At the time, I had just flown back from Battle Creek, Michigan. They dropped me off in the middle of nowhere, you know. So I had to find my way back to Los Angeles, and I had a
Yes.
U-Haul. I went to get
So
my
you
stuff.
got a U-Haul?
and- Yes, I did. And I started to load my stuff into the truck, at which point Sherry came home, and she started to throw my stuff out into the driveway and damage my stuff. And I was just trying to get out of there as fast as possible. I just wanted to be gone.
Yeah.
And so I did my best to get everything I could.
Yeah.
But I was unable to get everything. There
That was in November of 2001. Is that right?
And I've tried to get my stuff back since then.
Well, what have you done?
I asked her if she would give me my stuff back, and she said that she would if I paid her the money that I owed her. So I began paying her some money in order to get my stuff back. But I never received one thing. She would say that she would give me the stuff back, and then she would change her mind. And I never did get one thing back.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, actually, the camping gear he's talking about is a sleeping bag, which I purchased. Here's the receipt. And
Well, you purchased it for whom?
for when we were going to go on a camping trip, but it was been returned. It
was
got
a
returned
gift.
within the same week.
It was a
so
gift.
when he's talking about camping gear, it's something I own. The things that he's talking about are my things. He got
Like what?
everything that out of there.
Just a
he was
second. Let
talking
me see your
about
list. Let me see your list.
the bike. I don't even know what he's talking about. He never left a bike or any property there. There's nothing there.
Mountain bike, space heater,
I never saw it. I don't know what he's talking about.
weight bench.
That's actually Todd's, his friend's weight bench. It's not his.
What about the incline bench?
That's Sausage Tots. That's not Mark's.
I don't know what she's talking about. This is all my property.
No. Well, then, I feel like he had a U-Haul that was a huge truck, and before I got home, he had the whole thing packed. So I don't know why he didn't just take anything that he felt was left behind.
I don't know either. And I don't know why. And I don't know why he waited for a year to come after all this stuff. Anyway, in any event, you didn't pay any rent. Is that right?
I paid rent right up until the time that I was
No,
gone.
you didn't pay any rent after you moved out, did you?
No, I did
Right,
not.
then you should have come to get all this stuff.
I tried to, but she wouldn't let me come over, and I didn't want to come over if it...
Then what you do is you go to court.
That's
do you understand?
true. Yes,
what you do is you sue. What do you expect her to do? Hold on to all this stuff for a year?
I tried to get it back continuously, though.
And what you tried by going to court, just like you did now.
I understand.
And you do so promptly.
Yes, ma'am.
It's easy. It's easy for her. She's got an IOU. IOU makes it easy. A lease makes it easy. But you don't leave a whole bunch of stuff, if this is your property, for a year and then say, oh, by the by, I want my property back. So you forget about that. You owe her $1,630. Isn't that what I said? $1,630?
$1,630.
Pay the money. Goodbye.
Liza, excuse, you may step out.
It was a jealous nightmare.
His unfaithfulness and his cheating and his liaisons with groupies on the tour bus actually was the breaking point of the relationship.
She really didn't like the whole idea of someone being out on the road.
He couldn't stay faithful.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Doss versus Harold. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Jennifer Doss is suing her former best friend, 18-year-old student Nicole Harold, for unpaid rent, damage to her car, and for ruining a pair of slacks.
Ms. Doss, the defendant is or was a friend of yours, and your claim has three parts to it. First, it is your claim that she owes you for rent. She moved in with you and your family, and according to you, agreed to pay your mother some rent. She didn't pay your mother rent, you paid your mother, and therefore you want her to repay you. So far correct?
Yes.
Number two, you claim that she set fire to the inside of your car with a cigarette and damaged it. You wanted to pay for that. And number three, you say that she borrowed some clothes of yours, a pair of jeans, and destroyed them, damaged them by cutting off the bottoms, and you wanted to replace the jeans.
They're not jeans, they're dress pants.
Pants. The defendant says you burned the car yourself or somebody else did. She didn't do it. There was never an agreement for rent, and your pants don't fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you move into her house?
I was having family problems at my aunt's house, and I guess I was with her. We were at Firestone Park, this park we were at.
Don't go into all this. I don't care where you were at.
Okay.
You were having family problems at home, and she invited you to come and live with her?
Yeah, she said it would be okay for me to stay,
Okay.
and there was never no agreement. Her mom said if I had a job to help around, like help out, if I had a job.
When you moved, listen to me. Why don't you let me ask questions? When you moved in with her, were you working?
No.
Is that right?
Yes.
So how did you expect her to pay rent?
Well, me and my mom tried several times. We went and put in applications. Me and Nicole both, we went together.
Could you keep your voice up? You went to put in applications for what?
Well, we went to Rubbermaid and...
To find a job.
Yes.
But at the time she moved in with you, she had no job.
Yes.
So how did you expect her to pay rent?
We were going to get a job.
But she didn't get a job.
No.
Good. So there's no rent. You think that I believe that you gave your mother rent for her? Do you think I believe that? That's what you say in your complaint. Is that what you're going to tell me here in court, that you gave your mother rent for her?
Yes, I did.
I don't believe you. How's that? Next thing is your car. Tell me about your car.
Well, me and Nicole went up to Chapel Hill Mall, and she was smoking, and we met up with one of her friends, and she asked me if I wanted to go over to their house. I said fine, because we weren't doing nothing at the time. We were just driving around. And when we pulled up in front of their house, she went to put her cigarette out on a Taco Bell cup, and she dropped her cigarette, and it went under the seat. And she told me that she put it out, and when I turned on my dome light, there was smoke coming out from under my seat, and I started yelling at Nicole, and she still insisted that she put it out. And then when I reached my hand under the seat, I found the cigarette, and I had burn holes in my seat and on my floor.
And what about on your hand?
No, I didn't have them on my hand.
Well, was the cigarette out or not?
It was a little bit out, but by the time I found it, it was out.
And let me see the damage to your car.
And there was also a time where she burnt the ceiling because she didn't roll down the window far enough to flick it out, and I also have pictures of that, too.
What is this, on the seat?
Yes, on the bottom of the seat.
Underneath?
Yes.
Can you see it when you look at the car?
No.
And what about this?
That's the ceiling.
Okay. So you can't see the cigarette hole when you look at your car. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, you fill up under the seat and you can feel it.
Did you fix it?
No, I have not yet.
Are you going to fix it?
Yes, I am.
Why?
Because I just bought my car 4 months before that happened, and I'm trying to trade it in so I don't have all these.
Well, maybe if you don't tell anybody, they won't know that there's a little hole underneath the seat where you have to put your hand.
Well, the
If you wanna
dealership
sell
already knows about it.
Who told them?
I did because I wanted to get it fixed.
Did you put out a cigarette in her car?
I put
Just-
it at the top on an accident. The top I did. The little burn
So
hole.
this you did?
Yeah, one. There's like a lot of them, but I did one.
There were a lot of them. From where?
From in the back seat when she had like tons of people in the back and smoking. She like crowded people in her back seat.
Is that true?
I have a paper right here. It said that there was no other burn holes found when the guy
yeah, but it was
inspected my
under
car.
it was under the seat.
He
There's people in
inspected the
back
whole
and it
car.
fell.
So the answer is you did burn a hole in her car. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, not the ground, not the seat.
Just this.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Shouldn't let people smoke in your car. All right, let's talk about the pants. Did you borrow her pants?
Them
Don't
pants-
tell me I don't want to hear I can tell when you're telling me the truth. I can tell when you're lying. So I don't care what you wrote in your answer.
Okay.
Forget about that. Did you borrow her pants?
Yes, I borrowed them.
All right, now, that's good. Not your cousin, you borrowed her pants. And did you cut her pants?
No, my cousin Jamie did.
But
And I
you
told her.
borrowed them.
Yeah. So
And
did
you're
Jamie.
responsible.
She borrowed it too, Jamie, when we were all going to the club. And I told her the next day that Jamie cut them, and she said, I don't know, she said something to Jamie.
Explain that to me.
All right.
You borrowed the
Yeah.
pants?
Yeah, I borrowed them once.
And then
so
you returned them to her?
I was living with her.
You returned them to her?
Yeah, but it wasn't cut up yet.
When did your cousin borrow them?
Yeah. When we
Oh, God, give me strength. Not yeah. When requires a date.
It was after I wore them. Because when she first
Who
got
did
it.
she borrow them from?
Her.
Is that right?
Jamie never wore these. She had a different outfit of mine on.
Did she ever borrow them from you?
Nicole did, but Jamie did not.
Really?
Yes.
Let me see the bottom.
They're cut up over on this side, and right here.
Now, you understand that in your answer you said to me that you never borrowed her pants because her pants wouldn't fit you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a so that was a lie. Is that right?
Right.
You both lie. How could you both lie? Why would you both lie in court? Isn't that a stupid thing? You didn't pay your mother any rent, and you, in fact, did borrow her pants. And you did cause some damage to her car. You should be responsible for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Okay, good. How many people smoked in your car within the last month?
None. There has not been no smoking in my car since Nicole burnt the bottom of my seat.
And let's say prior to Nicole burning the hole in your car. How many people smoked in your car?
Maybe about 3 or 4, not that many.
3 or 4 is a lot of people. I thought you told me in your complaint that you had a no-smoking car.
I do, but I told everybody that smoked in my car, if they can smoke responsibly, they can smoke in my car. But if they can't, I don't want them smoking in my car.
Can I see those pants, please? Tell me about why you moved out.
Me and her got in an argument, and I
What'd you get into an argument about?
Guys or something. Like, we were at her boyfriend's house, and ever since then, we weren't talking anymore.
So you moved back home?
Yeah.
All right. How much did you pay for these pants?
They were $42 for the whole outfit. I have a letter from the place where I got them from.
Can I see that purse, please? When did you buy them?
Probably about a year ago.
Did you ever wear them?
Yes, I have.
How many times did you wear them?
Maybe twice.
Okay. And they were $42. I'm giving you $300 for the hole in your car and $42 for the pants. You get nothing for the rent because that was a fib. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount.
Sullivan versus Sims. President sworn in judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Sullivan, I assume this is your daughter, is that right? And this is your son-in-law?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, your daughter and son-in-law purchased a car that was for your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
That was back in
March.
of last year.
Correct.
And the agreement was that you would make a monthly payment that would cover the car payment and insurance.
Correct.
To your daughter and son-in-law.
Correct.
And you would have the car, and when the car was paid off, I assume it would be yours. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So far correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You did have the car for a period of time. Then you had an accident with the car in a
Correct.
parking lot. And you called your son-in-law.
Yes.
According to you, you put a note on the car.
Yes.
Did you put the note on the other car, or did your son-in-law?
I put it on the car that I hit, right
Yes.
next to me.
On the note was?
My name, phone number, and that I worked next door at Randall's, and the phone number.
You believe he took the note off the car you
They-
hit?
yes.
Because they never contacted
Correct.
you. And there was damage to that car.
Yes.
You didn't do that, did you, Mr. Sims?
No, ma'am.
And shortly thereafter, Mr. Sims repossessed the car and sold it. You are suing, according to your complaint, for the whole value of the car.
Correct.
Which you're not entitled to. So let's be realistic. Let's say you're suing for the payments that you made on the car. April, May, June, July, and August, if you made the 5 months worth of payments.
Mm-hmm. And I did not miss a payment.
Okay.
I was
And
told...
that's your statement. I did not miss a payment.
And-
That was our agreement, and he had no right to take the car back,
Right.
and therefore I want the payments. How much were your payments each month?
Well, he told me $200 when we signed the original agreement. $200 a month, that included insurance.
How much was the insurance on the car, Mr. Sims?
$62.96.
Mr. Sims, how much did you pay for the car?
I purchased the car for $1,500. I put $600 of the repairs to the car because I purchased it damaged.
Okay, and you sold it when?
About 2 weeks ago.
And how much did you sell it for?
$3,200.
And how much did you pay to fix it as a result of the accident that your mother-in-law had?
What she did, she bent the door around to the fender.
Just tell me how much you paid to fix it.
$150, but it didn't fix it correctly. It just made the door open and close. It did not repair the car back to the original condition.
Say nothing. Yet. Say nothing
Okay.
yet.
All right.
So let's say you spent $2,200 on the car.
Correct.
You sold it for $3,200, giving you $1,000 profit, and your mother-in-law gave you $137 a month times 5 equals $685.35. So you got that too.
Correct.
So this is going to take care of your counterclaim, because you're suing her for $660 for miscellaneous damages incurred in relation to the car. That's your counterclaim. That's out, because you had no loss, sir. You have a profit.
All right, I understand.
You have a profit. So you suffered no damage. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Now let's talk about what your mother-in-law wants.
Okay, I need to speak.
Now I'm ready.
He works at a body shop. He didn't pay nothing to have that car fixed.
I don't care whether he did or whether
Okay.
he didn't.
And he
I don't-
raised
that
the
has nothing-
payments.
That has nothing to do with you.
He raised my payments from
To what?
$200 to $230 a month.
When did he
Before
change
I
it?
made the first payment, I'm sorry,
Just a second.
April.
Okay,
April
230.
11th. He raised it.
Is that right, sir?
Well,
Is that right or wrong? She has proof. I'm sure she has checks or
here.
whatever. Is that
yeah, we
correct?
agreed on the raise of the payment. It was due to the insurance increase.
So we have 230 less 62.96, 167.04 times 5, $835.20. I'm going to give you 1 minute, Mr. Sims, to explain to me why you don't think that you owe your mother-in-law $835.20.
We had an agreement that she was going to purchase the car, like you said. But also in that agreement, no one was supposed to drive the car. Well, she was letting the other brother-in-law drive the car, which I had a witness see him in the car. Also, she took the car to Chicago against my wishes, taking it out of town. Our original agreement was that the car was mine. I purchased the car, put it in my name, I put the insurance in my name, I registered it in my name, and I told her, here's the car, this is what we're going to do. You pay the car to me each month, and then when 13 months are over, I'll sign it over to you, do whatever you like. But in the time that you're driving the vehicle, the liability is on me with my insurance and everything covering me. I don't want anyone driving it. Drive it, do your errands, run back and forth to work. But I don't want the car leaving the state. I don't want the car going anywhere. Just keep it
Okay,
here in
now,
town.
Mrs. Sims, I read that. I read your defense, sir. However, your problem is you didn't take it back from her then.
Okay, you're right.
You took it back from her when she had an accident in the parking lot.
I didn't take it back from her. What she did, she was letting people drive the car. Then when she damaged the car, then when she damaged the vehicle, she brought the car to me and handed me the keys and wanted me to fix the vehicle. The daughter-in-law got upset with me and mad because I wouldn't file an insurance claim against my own policy to make me pay the increase over the next 3 years. And so they started feuding all over again. That's when I talked with her and I asked her, hey, we need to do something different here. Can you go get a loan for the balance due on the car? I can sign the car to you and we can quit all this fighting and carrying on and be done with it. You can do what you like. She agreed to go get her own loan.
Stop playing with the papers.
Sorry.
She went out, tried 2 or 3 different banks. No one would loan her the money because of her past history and her credit. It's so horrible she couldn't get it. So then she comes to me and says, you know what, I'm going to save the money for 6 weeks. Can you hold the car 6 weeks and I'll pay in full? 4 weeks go by. She calls my wife and says, I got $20 to my name. I can't pay it. I said, okay, what are we going to do now? She said, well, I'm just going to take you to court and sue you for my interest. I said, well, how about I give you all your money back? I offered to give her every penny she paid, including the insurance. She agreed to that too. Then on Sunday morning, she calls and tells me, no, she don't want to do that either.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't know whether or not you took off the note, if there was a note placed on the other car in the parking lot. If you did, that was a foul thing to do.
And later today,
the vet told us there was no way the cat could have broken its leg in 5 places just from tossing off the side. She had to have been pretty much slammed to the ground to have broken it the way it did.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Phyllis Sullivan says son-in-law Chip Sims repossessed her car for absolutely no reason. Chip says Phyllis has been irresponsible with the vehicle.
What you should have done, Miss Sullivan, is take him up on his offer. Because if he was willing to give you all the money that you paid in the car, including the insurance, you should have accepted it. Because for me, you're only going to get the money that you paid on the car itself, less the insurance.
Your Honor.
Yeah, what?
The car, I mean, this was a business contract. I couldn't get a loan because I filed bankruptcy.
Show me the business contract.
Right?
Show me the contract. Show me what it says. Show me
Can
the
I say
contract.
something? Shh. Nobody drove that car. His so-called character witness has a warrant for his arrest for hitting a police officer.
Would you please stop talking and hand me the contract?
I'm sorry.
You don't have one.
There's the contract. This is my thing from bankruptcy. And
no, listen to me. I asked you for the contract.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Did you ever have a conversation with your mother about somebody else driving the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. Tell me when.
Less than a month into the deal with the car.
Tell me
about
what
2
the
weeks
conversation
into it.
was.
I called her to let her know that we had spoken to a fellow family member who saw someone else driving the car. When I asked her about it, she proceeded to cry and say, I would never do something like that. You told me you didn't want anyone driving the car. I wouldn't do that. I would never hurt you or Chip like that. That's our agreement. I wouldn't let someone drive the car.
Okay. I have to make a determination as to what your damages are, Miss Sullivan.
Okay.
And by the way, Mr. Sims, I don't know whether or not you took off the note, if there was a note placed on the other car in the parking lot. If you did, that was a foul thing to do. Otherwise, I cannot understand why somebody would not have contacted you to have their car fixed. It's not reasonable that if you come out and you see somebody left their name and number and said, I hit your car.
Right.
That they would not contact that person unless the note was taken off the car. In any event, I believe that you're entitled to, based upon this agreement, you're entitled to your money back, because this agreement says that if at any time I default upon my payments, Ronald has the right to take the car back, and I will forfeit any payments already made. She never defaulted on her payments, so you had no right to take her car back.
I didn't take the car back. She brought the car to me.
I don't believe that's true. And I believe that you made a profit. Now, just shit, quiet. I believe that you made a profit on the car. You don't have to make a really handsome profit. So instead of making $1,838, you're only going to make $1,000 worth of profit.
$1,800 because she'd already filed this suit once, which I had to hire an attorney to fight her the first time, that she never showed up to court. I had to
I don't
fight
have
her.
that. Listen to me, Mr. Sims. Mr. Sims.
I've got the original court date and a dismissal from it.
Pay careful attention to me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have that as part of a counterclaim.
Right.
In any event, what I'm telling you is you have the right, if you sold the car, you made a profit. Your profit was in excess of $1,000.
Well, I kept the car for 5 months waiting to solve this case, waiting to go to court, which we had our court date. She didn't appear.
What difference does it make, sir? What difference does it make as far as the profit that you made?
Right, exactly.
She put in $835.20. That's less the insurance over a 5-month period, and she's entitled to get it back under your contract. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just want them out of my life. I just want to go on about my own life and let her live her life, let me live mine.
He couldn't claim it on his insurance because he's got too many other insurance claims going on.
This isn't the first time in my life my mother's disappointed me.
My son-in-law, Chip, told me that I'm putting the stake in the family.
We warned her before she filed this suit to let her know she would never see me and she would never see her grandson again. She continued to do it, and I'm going to stand by my word.
I'm very hurt. I'm going to miss my daughter and my grandson.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Block versus Ulrich. Step forward, please.
Loan officer Chris Block and his wife Deanna are suing their neighbor, cleaning company vice president Steve Ulrich, for vet bills. The Blocks claim the son of Steve's girlfriend, 12-year-old Dustin Miller, threw their kitten down a flight of stairs.
Mr. and Mrs. Block, who's going to speak for you?
I will.
Okay. Neither one of you were home at the time of this incident with the kitten?
No.
Okay. Who was home?
Both kids, I believe, right? No, my son.
Very good. So why don't you have a seat, the two of you? Step up. Mr. Ulrich, this is not your son. You are his guardian, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You weren't there on the 3rd of October, is that right?
Yes.
You were not there.
I was not there.
Why don't you have a seat? Step up here, young man. What's your first name?
Devin.
Devin?
Yeah.
And yours?
Dustin.
All right, this is the complaint. On behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Block, they had a kitten, and they claim that Dustin purposely injured their kitten, causing the kitten's leg to break, and the kitten had to have leg reset. There were substantial medical bills, and they want the defendant to be responsible for those medical bills, you or his mother. The defendant says that Dustin was merely defending himself from this kitten. So let's see what happened. Devin?
Yes.
I want you to tell me what happened on October 3rd with your kitten. How old, first of all, tell me how old the kitten is.
When it happened?
Yes.
About 4 months.
And Dustin was a friend of yours?
Yeah.
Did he play over at your house often?
Yes.
Okay. Did Dustin like the kitten?
Yeah.
So tell me what happened that day.
Well, we were playing video games, and he said he's going to go to the bathroom. And then he comes back, and he says that I didn't really go to the bathroom. I went to go play with the kitten. Well, later that night, she was limping and crying, and you'd touch her leg, she would cry. And we asked him when he went to go play with the cat if he did something, but he said that she was biting him and that he just got angry and annoyed, and he tossed her off the stairs.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Tell me what happened, Dustin.
I was playing with the kitten when it bit me, and then
Well, tell me exactly where you were when you were playing with the kitten and it bit you.
I was on the stairs.
What do you mean on the stairs?
Like, the kitten was on the stairs, so I was, like, sitting and petting it.
And the kitten bit you?
Yes.
So what happened after the kitten bit you?
Like, I pulled my hand back to get it off, and it fell off the stairs.
How did it fall off the stairs?
The stairs is not that wide, so when I was sitting down, I was kind of near the edge of this, where the stairwell would be.
Isn't there a railing?
No.
Is there a railing?
No, Your Honor. We removed it after we moved in. I have some pictures.
I'd like to see it.
And there's some pictures of after pin was removed.
Oh, I see. So there is no railing. Who else was there when he confessed?
My mom and my sister.
Well, I'd like to hear from you. Yes. Tell me about the discussion that you had with Dustin that evening.
Well, at first when we'd asked, because I saw the cat was limping and nobody would say anything, so I kept asking the kids over and over again what had happened. Dustin was kind of nervous, and Devin told me that he had left the room. And then it told me about him playing with the cat. So I said, Dustin, what happened? Just tell us what happened. And then he said that when he was playing with her, that she started to bite him. So at first he said he went like this and just threw her down the stairs. Then I said, well, there had to have been more than that. So I kept asking him. And then he said, well, he went like this over the edge. And he said, so then he threw her that way.
So he didn't say he picked her up and threw her over the side.
No, but...
Okay. I just want to know what he said.
Okay.
You're 12?
Yeah.
And you're 12?
Yeah.
Well, they're certainly old enough to be home alone by themselves. So I can't fault you for not being there to supervise, but I also am not going to make an order that his parents be responsible for the medical bills for your cat. I mean, I don't think that he purposely did anything to hurt your cat. The cat nips because it's a kitten. But again, he's 12 years old. He doesn't have the intellect, you know, of somebody who's an adult. And he wanted to get the cat off. So let's say he took his hand and went like that, and the cat went over on the side as a reflex. There's nothing more than a reflex to get the cat off. You still think that he's responsible to pay for the vet bills for the cat?
Only because the vet told us there was no way the cat could have broken its leg in 5 places just from tossing off the side. She had to have been pretty much slammed to the ground to have broken it the way it did.
Did you ever have any indication that this young man would do anything to hurt an animal?
Well, the fact that he knew she was hurt and went back to play video games like nothing had happened.
Well, that's not a good thing, right? Tell me why you did that.
Well, first of all, I didn't know the cat was hurt.
Just a second. After the cat goes over, whether you went like this to get the cat off you because the cat was biting you, or whether you pushed the cat down the stairs to get the cat off of you, you had to have sat there for a second and watched what happened when the cat got up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you see the cat limping?
No.
Well, I don't necessarily believe that, Dustin. When you came back inside, did you tell Devin what had happened with the cat?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't really know. I didn't really think it was like a huge deal because when the cat fell, it wasn't moving afterwards when I went up, back upstairs.
It wasn't moving?
No, but...
Well, weren't you worried if it wasn't moving? Dustin?
It was standing.
You have an animal at home? You have a dog or a cat?
Bird.
What if your bird was bothering somebody by chirping and the person had a headache and it went over and it rattled the cage really hard and the bird fell to the ground and broke a leg? Would you be angry?
Yes.
Would you think that the person ought to tell you that that's what happened?
Yes.
Do you think that you would have any responsibility? Or that they would have any responsibility?
Like, they would have some responsibility, but we would also have some because it was our bird that got on the person's nerves.
The birds do what birds do. Yes. Birds sing. Kittens nip. And if you don't like it when the kitten is nipping you, then you don't play with the kitten. But Mrs. Block, I don't think that he did this on purpose. And I don't think that his parents had any indication that he had a predisposition to cruelty to animals, which in my judgment would make them responsible. If you have children in your house and you choose to leave 12-year-olds in your house unsupervised...
Morning, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
You used to be in love. You're not in love anymore. So now we're here. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So, Mr. Bruno, you say that Miss Ross, who used to be your love, owes you for two things. First, a loan for materials that you purchased to do a deck in her house.
Right.
Deck was falling apart. You're in that business. You said, I'll do a deck. According to you, you said, you pay for the materials, I'll do the labor as a labor of love. And the second loan is for a truck, $2,500, and you say that both of these things, repayment was promised by Miss Ross for both of these things. Miss Ross says, baloney. Miss Ross has some counterclaims. She was at your house one day, according to her, and she fell down a flight of stairs. You were still dating after that.
Yes.
Is that right? But you decided you might as well sue him for that. Now.
Well, my feeling was that it was ridiculous that it got to this point anyway, so if we were going to...
We were going to dredge up old trash, we might as well get all the old trash up. That's what we are. We are receptacles for trashy lawsuits. Not. Because if you fell down the flight of stairs at his house and you hurt yourself, you should have proceeded against his homeowners at the time. If you chose not to do that, don't bother me with it. The next thing that you're suing him for on the counterclaim, because I'm whittling down this lawsuit. I'm going to get to whittling down yours in a second.
No problem.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. The next thing that you're suing him for is you say that he started work on this deck of yours and he left it halfway and you want him to pay to have it finished.
Correct.
Unlikely, but a possibility. Third thing is you say he has some property of yours. Skis, what else?
He has all of my ski equipment.
Do you have her ski equipment?
No, I don't.
Where is it?
To my knowledge, it's in her basement.
You don't have it?
No, I have my daughter's and my own.
Doesn't have it. Next.
He has a phone of mine, cordless
What kind of phone?
Cordless phone.
How did he get a cordless phone of yours?
One of his phones was not working properly, and he was, well, we were going to get married, and he was talking about going and getting another phone, and I said, well, let's just put that in your basement. That's
great, perfect. So you gave him a phone. So what else?
A cookbook and some kitchen utensils.
How did he get those?
I was over at his house cooking a lot, and they were left. There were items that I had not taken back home.
That you left there? Items that you left there?
Right. I never thought it would get to this.
It didn't. So with the exception of, I'll let you tell me the story about the deck. Forget about everything else. Okay, Mr. Bruno, tell me about the deck, the materials that you purchased, sir. Tell me where you were with her when you decided that you were going to fix this deck.
I was on my phone. We were discussing it.
Oh, tell me what the discussion was.
It was Mother's Day, a couple days before, and she has some puppies that were getting ready to be sold, and she was worried about the safety of people coming to view the deck, or view the puppies, and didn't want them walking on the deck, so she was trying to figure out another route for them to go, and as a Mother's Day gift, I said, well, I'd take care of the deck so that she could have it sold, or not sold, but sell the puppies without worrying about people walking on it.
Great.
Just reimburse me when the puppies are sold, or if you refinance your house. I would charge you no labor. That was my Mother's Day gift. Plus, I took her to dinner.
All right, now let me hear what the phone call was like, Ms. Ross.
He called me the morning of Mother's Day, and he said, I've decided what I want to do for you for Mother's Day. He said, I want to rebuild your deck. And I'm like, well, that's not something that I can afford to do at this point. Well, you know, this is something I want to do for you. You never let me do anything for you. I'm concerned about your safety on the deck. You're going to have people coming over to look at the puppies. Okay. He says, okay, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to pick up the materials, and I'll be over.
Now tell me about the truck.
Oh, I had been looking for a truck. I knew that once I sold the litter of puppies, that I would have the down payment for the truck. And I had been looking at different trucks, and he's saying, why don't you get that when you like it? And I'm like, no, because I don't have my down payment yet. So I think one truck slipped away from me twice at 2 different locations. I went and I looked at another truck. He came with me. I liked the truck. He's like, you should just get the truck. I'll just give you the money. He said, your birthday's coming up in September. And
when were the puppies sold?
The last puppy wasn't sold until the first week in August.
What kind of puppies were they?
Labrador retrievers.
How much did you get for the litter?
They sold for different amounts. The highest puppy being sold for $425. The majority of them were sold for $300.
How many puppies were there in the litter?
There ended up being 8.
So there's your $2,500, right? So you'd have had the money for your down payment.
Correct.
When did the two of you break up?
A day before Father's Day.
In June?
Yes, the 15th.
Okay, and when did you give her the $2,500?
May 25th.
So you give him back his $2,500, Miss Ross, because that's the right thing to do. So,
Your Honor.
Yeah.
I have a police report of when he came over to my house demanding back the engagement ring and all of this money that I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll give you the money. He comes in my house, he starts throwing things, so I had to call the police.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's an exceptionally high bid if she's just going to put it up to code, which in that case would be a handrail.
Then you should have finished it.
I would have loved to.
But you didn't.
And later today.
He only used electrical tape and wired 3 wires together, and it caught on fire.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Yes, it is, Your Honor. It's true.
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephen Bruno says ex-fiancée Kathy Ross owes for a truck loan and for the cost to build an outside deck. Kathy says they were both presents.
Did you give him back his ring?
Yes.
Why did he have to come over to your house for the ring?
I have no idea why it even got to that in the first place.
Why don't you tell me, sir?
She wouldn't bring it back over, and when I did show up, she'd tell me, get the hell off her property, or what the hell was I doing there? And I told her I wanted the ring back and the money that I'd loaned her, and then I was out of there. And I didn't throw things, Your Honor. I threw a cell phone, which was mine, and that was all I threw.
All right, you lost your temper. That's not the right thing to do.
No, ma'am,
But
it
he gets
isn't.
his $2,500 back. Let me see pictures of the deck. Sort of left this job in the middle, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I loaned her the money for the truck, and I didn't have the money to finish the deck.
So what you're saying to me is you loaned her the money for the truck, and because you loaned her the money for the truck, you didn't have enough money for the materials for the rest of the deck.
In part.
You understand where I'm going, Mr. Bruno. That's what the problem is. You're trying to anticipate where I'm going. You took a house that looked okay. Now, it may not have been okay, but it looked okay.
It was an unsafe deck.
And it doesn't look okay now.
It's better than what it was, ma'am.
No, it wasn't. No.
Yes.
No.
People were
This is before,
They stepped through that
and this
deck.
is after. There's no railing. There's no guard railing.
No
Is that
railing.
right?
That's right.
And there's not even a full floor.
Right.
I got it. Can I see the cheapest estimate that you got to finish this deck? I think you say in your counterclaim that it was $1,800. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, this estimate is $1,200 to $1,400.
Right, and there's a big, the other one is for $3,200, and I don't know why the difference in the two is
I
so
don't know
large.
either.
And that's not to restore the deck back to the condition it was in. That's just to put up a hand railing and stairs from
It says
the porch.
to bring the deck up to code.
Yes, ma'am, but it's
Okay.
not, I would not be able to use that deck the same way that I was using the other deck. I have no way to get from one part of my yard to the other.
I'm going to take the highest of this estimate, which is $1,200 to $1,400, $1,400, because I think you're responsible for at least giving her some semblance of a deck back in her house.
Well,
You
if
can't
I-
just walk away from a gift. You started this, you have to finish it. And if you're not going to go to her house, and I can understand and finish it, somebody's going to have to. So she owes you $2,500 for the truck. From that, I'm deducting $1,400 for the deck. She owes you $1,100 for the truck.
Your Honor, in regards to that, that's an exceptionally high bid if she's just going to put it up to code, which in that case would be a handrail at $2 a foot.
And you should have finished it,
I would have loved to.
but you didn't.
have
Judgment
the
for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100, which is the difference between fixing the deck and the $2,500 she owes you for the truck. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She had conflicts with my family and didn't want to deal with it.
I didn't want to be like the rest of the in-laws and feel like I was shoved to the outside of that main core.
I think it was a little unfair because I know she wasn't telling the truth. We had an agreement prior to all this, but judge ruling is judge ruling.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Olshansky versus Longo. Step forward, please.
Administrative Assistant Elaine Olshansky is suing former friend, 23-year-old interior decorator Jason Longo, for a refund of his fee and for damage to her home. Jason is countersuing for the unpaid portion of his fee.
Ms. Olshansky, you hired the defendant to do some painting in your house.
Correct.
And paid him some $2,200. It's your claim that he did a lousy job. You want your money back, and not only do you want your money back, you want him to pay you to have some of the work that he did treated by somebody else. So you're suing him for even more than what you paid him. Mr. Longo said that he did a fine job, that you're angry about something else, and he was a friend of one of your children's. Is that right? That's how you knew him?
Correct.
Had he had experience in the painting and decorating business?
I was told he did.
How much work was he supposed to do?
He was supposed to do my dining room, and then we agreed verbally that he would do some extra painting.
Tell me what he was supposed to do, Miss Olshansky. Not just your dining room for $2,200. Come on.
What he did is he painted the dining room, and he painted the trim in the living room, and he had my son help him with...
What other rooms did he paint?
The living room and the hallway. And upstairs in our bathroom, he painted the bathroom vanity.
What work did you do in her house?
Our original agreement was to work on the dining room, which is where I started. As I was working on the dining room...
Okay, what were you supposed to do in the dining room?
The dining room, we were trying to remake the whole thing. She had gorgeous furniture to begin with. We were just removing the wallpaper that was existing.
Okay, so let's start that. You were removing wallpaper.
Yes.
What's next?
We decided on a color scheme for the dining room and a finish that we wanted to do in the lower half. Basically planned out the lighting fixture that we wanted and the colors that were going to be in the room, especially the lower half. We decided to do a faux finish and put a chair rail in the center.
Just a second. Now, then you did living room trim.
Yes, I did, at no charge.
And hall.
I did the crown molding in the hall.
And what about the vanity upstairs?
The vanity was part of our original agreement to do with the dining room. When she approached me about the dining room, she also said she was remodeling both bathrooms upstairs, and she had asked me what we could do with the vanity, and it was a wood, but because of the heat steam damage, it was kind of tarnished, so we decided to paint it, and we used a metallic paint to mimic the border tile that was upstairs.
Your Honor, it wasn't damaged. My upstairs vanity was not damaged. It was in perfect finish because he didn't prime that either. He just painted right over it very nicely.
Yes, and your original agreement was $2,200, is that right?
Yes. The work also included, though, the solarium room in the back of the house, which what happened was we started doing work in the dining room, and then as I was working in the dining room, Mrs. Olshansky purchased furniture for, I believe it was the living room, but decided that it wasn't going to work out, so we decided to redo their solarium area in the back. That was also included in the price that she paid me, and that was mainly interior decorating. There was no painting done out there. It was just making it into kind of like a cluttered area, into like a nice sitting room with new furniture, accessories, and
So what
such.
did you do in that area?
No painting was done, just accessorizing, purchasing accessories.
That's what you did?
That's correct.
Okay. So that sounds like a reasonable amount of money, $2,200. So what are you complaining about?
The paint is all peeling
Let me
everywhere
see.
he painted. I have many pictures.
Let me see where it's peeling.
Your Honor, I also have pictures of the before work and the during stage process work. I was not allowed to photograph the after work. The plaintiff did not allow me back into her home to do so.
You never asked.
Shh. This is an outside picture, is that right?
No, it isn't. That's the
That's
back
the
porch.
solarium.
Those are the wires hanging where he did wiring, and it caught on fire because he only used electrical tape and wired 3 wires together, and it caught on fire.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Yes, it is, Your Honor. It's true.
Your Honor, I have a degree in fire protection technology, and I've been in school and been with the fire service for 6 years. It's not true.
Who did the wiring,
Okay.
Jason?
You have a fire marshal's report?
No. We just
Okay.
unplugged it and put the fire out.
I have no idea where you say the paint is peeling. You show me in those at the blow-ups.
Your Honor,
These
would you
are
like
there.
to see my pictures?
Yeah. I find it very hard to look at these blow-ups, so don't show me your... Don't you have regular pictures?
I use a digital camera, so I have to print them out. The first set of pictures starts with the dining room before. Your Honor, her son also helped me paint. I'd like to see the pictures to make sure that's my work.
Absolutely. Well, whether it's your work or her son's work, it doesn't make any difference. You were the contractor.
Your Honor, I also have estimates.
For what?
To repair the damage that was done.
I'm not going to give you any amount of money to repair damage. I've seen the photographs. If you're not satisfied with the job that he did, I suggest you not give him any recommendation.
The pictures show peeling paint. It's latex painted over oil base, which peels like rubber.
Ma'am, this is the letter from the company that I used.
Put it down. Where was the paint peeling? In what room?
Every room, at every spot, it peels off because it's latex over oil. I have.
What do you mean every room and every spot?
All
I've
of
seen.
them.
Look, listen to me.
All the trim
I
work,
saw
just the
these-
trim. Just the trim is painted latex over oil. And I asked him. I questioned him. I said, I don't believe that you can put latex over oil. And he said, you can as long as you prepare properly.
Your Honor, that was her initial concern, and I did acknowledge that that was an issue that we had to take into account. However, I knew that you could paint latex over oil paint. The dining room was sanded down. The other rooms I cannot account for because I came in midway through the whole
Which
situation.
other rooms?
The dining room was the only room I personally painted myself completely.
No, you painted all of the trim in the living room, and you had Peter, without charge, help you get through painting
Right, and
the
I was
hallway.
also without charge helping the hallway and the living room.
You know, charges...
Just a second. Is that true?
If
That
you-
your original estimate was for the dining room and the
Upstairs
vanity.
Correct.
And the other
And the decoration
trim
in the
that
solarium.
he did either helping you out with your son or whoever else was helping him out. Was it your son who was helping him?
Yes.
And that was as a favor?
No, the work wasn't as a favor.
That's a lie.
He agreed to paint in those rooms also.
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
If you're not satisfied, don't give him a recommendation, Miss Olshansky.
Your Honor,
That's all.
what happened was...
That's what? Listen to me. You're not losing.
I understand.
If you had some sort of a falling out that involves a social issue, which you seem to suggest here involving her son, that has absolutely nothing to do with me, that has nothing to do with this case. Ms. Olshansky is complaining about a subjective look at work, which she says is below par. And I'm saying, based on what I see, the rooms as painted look just fine to me.
It's just the trim, not the wall.
Well, then get somebody to fix the trim. And what are you suing him for $3,000 for, which is more than even you paid him?
That's what the estimates are.
Get
to
your
redo
son
the
to
trim.
do it. Strip down the trim if you're not happy with it and repaint it in either latex or flat or whatever color you like.
Your Honor, may I say something
You had
else?
practically your whole house done. Don't say anything. You're not
Okay.
losing. What's your problem?
I just want to let her know she had complained about the amount that I had charged her, and she was saying that I basically owed her to do the rest of the rooms and that I owed her to do the repairs based
didn't
off the
say
amount that she that I charged her for. And I have I have documents that show that she has discounts in excess of $2,500 that I had given her because she was a friend of mine. So if she's saying that I overcharged her, it's completely untrue.
Excuse me,
Just
Your
a second.
Honor.
She's not complaining you overcharged her,
She's
sir.
complaining-
She's not complaining that you overcharged her. She knows that for the amount of work she had done in her house, she was getting a bargain. She knows that. Her problem is the bargain turned out to be not such a bargain
a
because she
nightmare.
wasn't happy with some of the trim.
Matter of Magliazzo versus Conroy. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Miss Magliazzo, this is your son. Tell me his name.
Dylan Magliazzo.
Dylan. All right, he's going to stand right behind you. According to your complaint, your son was run over by the defendant in a parking lot.
Right.
Is there somebody who can take care of him outside?
My brother.
Well, do you want to take him outside and let your brother take care of him?
Mommy.
Good. According to your complaint, the defendant ran over your son's leg in a parking lot. He was in a truck, and you want him to pay your medical bills and for your son's pain and suffering.
Right.
Mr. Conroy said, in effect, you should have been watching him more closely as he was running around the parking lot. I might have responded somewhat differently, Mr. Conroy. What kind of truck were you driving that day, sir?
A Dodge pickup truck.
Big truck.
Half-ton.
And your son suffered no broken legs, is that right, madam?
Right.
If a half-ton truck ran over a 2-year-old's leg, which according to you happened, that child would not have walked out of this courtroom today.
Well, he did.
Impossible. Impossible for him to have run over the child's leg with a half-ton truck and not had a broken bone. And if he did, he was a very lucky little boy. Very lucky. So if he was so lucky, what I want to know from you is, why are you here?
First of all, when he did hit my son...
Just a second. Let's go back. So you're really going to go through with this. You're in a parking lot. Is that right? What were you doing in the parking lot?
My son wasn't running around
What were you doing in the parking lot?
Standing out front. My son wanted to watch
Shh. You were standing out front of what?
the parking lot where my son's father lives.
You have a picture of where this happened?
I do.
Can I see it, please? What time of the year was this?
August.
So there was no snow on the ground like there is in this picture. I want you to have her take a pen, Bird, and mark down where she was standing with the child at first, and then where the child was allegedly run over by the defendant. Where she was standing?
Right here.
And where the child was run over by the...
Right here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's where she was, and that's where she says the child was hit.
So you tell me what happened, madam. You're standing outside the parking lot with your son.
Right. And my son wanted to watch the electric company. They were putting power lines there. He wanted to see the big trucks. So we're standing out there. My son's...
How many people? You, your son, and who else?
10 or 12 other people.
Were there other children?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My son had walked away from me, and I went to go grab him. And Mr. Conroy pulled in the parking lot and then reversed his truck back. Obviously didn't look in his mirrors to see that my son was behind his truck. Hit my son in his head, knocked him over, then was on top of my son's leg. Me and my son's father were screaming and yelling, banging on the man's truck to get off my son's leg. He just looked at us like he didn't know what was going on or anything. Like, it's not even that he didn't know what was going on. We told him, "You're on my son's leg, get off my son's leg," and he just looked at us like we were out of it. And finally, after the electric company, the guys from the electric company ran over and everybody ran over, I think he finally realized he was on my son's leg. Well, he pulled his truck up, got off my son's leg, not coming over to see if my son's okay, if he hurt my son, not asking.
When he got off your son's leg, who picked up your son?
I did.
Then did you put him down on the ground?
No.
You didn't let him walk to see if he was okay?
Oh, I picked him up, yeah, and he couldn't even stand on his leg. His leg was like that swollen.
Mm-hmm.
I then immediately took him to the emergency room.
Mm-hmm. Why weren't you watching him more carefully?
I was watching him.
No, you weren't.
He obviously wasn't watching where he's going because he knows kids are in that parking lot every day.
Listen to me, madam. You weren't watching him carefully enough.
So that gives him the right to not...
Listen to me, madam. You weren't watching him carefully enough. How old was he?
2.
And you're in a parking lot, is that right?
In front of a parking lot.
You're in a parking lot.
Right.
Yeah. I have 8 grandchildren, and I'm still have sufficient brain power to remember when my children were little. When my children were little and I had a 2-year-old, or when I'm walking around with one of my 2-year-old grandchildren in a parking lot, they hold my...
He did have my hand.
He did have your hand?
Yeah.
Oh, well then, shh, quiet. He did have your hand. Then is what you're telling me that when Mr. Conroy hit him and knocked him over, you were holding onto his hand?
No.
So you weren't holding his hand?
No.
Right. What I'm saying to you, madam, is when I'm in a parking lot with my 2-year-old grandchild, or I see my children walking with their children when we pull into a parking lot, we're going someplace, they run out, grab the hand, because they know they're not allowed to cross a street without holding somebody's hand. They're not allowed to be in a parking lot without holding somebody's hand.
Right, but
you weren't holding his hand.
I mean, if you drive a truck, don't you look in your mirrors to see if there's anybody behind you?
I'm not saying that he's without fault. I'm saying to me, you seem to think it's all his fault, and it's not.
Oh, I know it's
You're the parent. It's primarily your fault. Now, should he have been watching where he was going? Absolutely. And should he have been more careful if he saw a lot of other people there? Absolutely. And sometimes there's a little child dart out so that even if you are careful, you can miss him? Absolutely. You're not supposed to miss him. That's your only job.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How am I to know if he was drunk?
How am I to know you weren't drunk? Only a parent who might be drunk or under the influence of something would let a 2-year-old march around by himself in a parking lot. That's what you did. That's what you did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Magliazzo says her 2-year-old son Dylan was run over by Michael Conroy. Michael says the boy was running around in the parking lot of a bar.
Your only job and his father's only job that day was to make sure that your 2-year-old was holding on to an adult's hand in a parking lot. Right?
Right.
Right. And if you weren't, so that you were acting irresponsibly as a parent, and if you're lucky enough to have gotten away with a warning from God that this is what can happen to you. You can lose your child if you're not more careful, because he wasn't hurt, because he clearly walked out of here.
He has sleeping problems.
That's your problem.
No, it's not.
Well, whose is it? His?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that's what a lawyer told you. Did you go to see a lawyer?
Yeah.
Now, what'd the lawyer tell you? Pretty much the same thing as what I'm telling you? That's why you're here. Well, he says you have a child in a parking lot. You're supposed to hold their hand.
Does that give him the right to not see?
It's not a matter of right. Don't you seem to get it? He's driving in a truck, and I'm not saying he's without blame. You walked in here saying to me it's all his fault. He ran over my child. He didn't care. He was callous. We kept knocking on the window. You think that this man had a predetermined position to knock your son over, a 2-year-old over, run him over, and when you were banging at the door to tell him to get off your son, that he said, hell with them, I'm just going to keep my truck on his legs?
No, because how am I to know if he was drunk?
How are you to know? I don't know. How am I to know you weren't drunk?
Oh, I was.
Only a parent who might be drunk or under the influence of something would let a 2-year-old march around by himself in a parking lot. That's what you did. That's what you did. Now let me see the medical bills and let me see the report from the police.
One of the medical bills was already paid.
Good.
By his
That's what
insurance
you're supposed to
company.
do. Then I'll get to you, Mr. Conroy. Now, when did the police contact you, Mr. Conroy?
About an hour and a half to 2 hours after the accident.
Why did you go home?
Because I waited around about 45 minutes to an hour. Police to come, talk to the father. I said, if anybody comes, contact me.
Okay. Final reports. No fracture, no dislocation, and everything else is normal there. Then we go to 3 days later. They also found nothing wrong with the child at that point, and you took the child in there because you said he was having trouble sleeping.
He was waking up crying, saying in the truck.
The reason that you could not get a lawyer to take your case is because your son was not injured. Not every act requires people to take the matter a step further and bring on a lawsuit. You should feel, as I indicated before to you, very, very lucky that despite what could have happened to your son, because you were not vigilant in taking care of him, and because Mr. Conroy probably should have been more careful when he was driving his truck when he saw other kids and people around in the parking lot, despite that, your son was not hurt. The only thing that was reported by you was 3 days later, you went back to the hospital and you said he's having trouble sleeping. That's why you could not get a lawyer to take your case, because in order for there to be liability, there has to be an injury, and there was none. Now, it's possible that your son's going to have, even at his age, a bad recollection for a while about what happened when he was knocked down by a truck. That's possible, but it will pass. He was 2 years old.
But it's a...
And it will pass.
But it's a sleeping disorder. It's a post-traumatic sleeping disorder.
Let me explain something to you, madam. Don't tell me what it is. Are you a psychiatrist?
No, but that's what the doctors...
I'm not interested in what you tell me that the doctors say, because that's not what it says here. And I'm telling you, you're going to have another baby?
Yes.
This is your second child?
Third.
Third child. How old are you?
19.
19. I would suggest that you pay more careful attention to your children at age 19. It's your job to take care of them. At 19, you shouldn't have 3 children to begin with. If you have to take care of them.
I do take care of my kids.
And not put the responsibility of taking care of your children onto somebody else. It was not his responsibility to watch out for your child in the parking lot that day. It was your responsibility and his child's father. And the fact that there was almost an accident, a tragic accident, because your son could have been really hurt or killed or worse, is not his fault. It's your fault. He is partially responsible, and if the child was hurt, I might have found him partially responsible for the child's medical bills.
So it's okay.
But he was not hurt. And for that, you should say, thank God, and not bring a lawsuit. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I screamed for him to get off my son's leg, and he just looked at me.
When I did hear him, I did stop. That's why I didn't run over the child.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Shrek versus Hagar. Step forward, please.
26-year-old employment specialist Catherine Schreck is suing her former lover, railroad conductor Brian Hager, for an unpaid loan to get back on his feet.
Ms. Schreck, the defendant used to be your boyfriend. According to you, you made a loan to him in the amount of $1,000. Mr. Hager says that you did, in fact, give him $1,000. It was just that, a gift, not a loan. When was this $1,000 check, and it was a check, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Given to Mr. Hager?
The check was written on January 22nd, 2002, and it was cashed on January 24th, 2002.
Tell me the circumstances of the check, Ms. Schreck.
He was unemployed at the time.
Tell me of the circumstances of the check.
The check.
Ms. Schreck.
Mr. Hager was unemployed at the time, and he was also experiencing other financial hardships. And
how long had you been dating him at the time?
Approximately 3 weeks. He had disclosed that his ex-girlfriend was possibly pregnant and that he was the father. At that point, I had determined that I did not want to further the relationship beyond a friendship. However, I felt bad for him at the situation that he was in at the time. He had expressed that he was waiting for his tax return to come in.
Just a second. So if his ex-girlfriend thought she was pregnant, what did that have to do with money?
He didn't need money for that. It was just added stress in his life.
Who cares?
I cared. He was my friend at the time. I felt bad.
What were
for
you
him.
doing?
I'm a facilitator for San Bernardino Jobs and Employment Services Department. I teach welfare recipients how to get jobs.
Good. Oh, you should have taught him. What kind of work were you doing at the railroad, sir?
I'm a conductor.
And you were let go?
No, ma'am. I was just laid off temporarily due to a slowdown.
For how long?
6 months.
And what did you do during that 6-month period?
Things are hard everywhere, so I just I collected railroad unemployment.
How much?
It's $1,000 a month.
And where were you living?
I own a home.
And you have a mortgage?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the mortgage?
Mortgage was $1,700.
So you were really short. Where'd you get the other money from? Did you have savings?
Yes, ma'am. I had money saved up in my bank account.
Now, you tell her that you're having some financial difficulties, and so what did you do?
So I offered to give him a loan.
What did you say to him? What did he say to you?
I said, my father just gave me $1,000 for Christmas. I just received my student financial aid. I don't need it at the time, but I will need it in several months. He said that he was expecting his tax return, and as soon as he got that, he would pay me back.
Okay,
so
where were you?
in the span of 2 months.
Where were you when you had this conversation with him?
At his home.
Remember what date it was? Was it the 22nd of January?
Yes, it was.
That's not true, Your Honor. When she had given me the check...
Tell me about why you would tell this lady that you are having any financial trouble anyway.
Well, she could just tell that I was stressed. We were upstairs in my room, we were just talking, watching TV, and she just, she said, what's the matter? I said, well, I'm stressed out right now because, I'm having some financial problems with being laid off. She said, well, I got plenty of money. Why don't you just let me help you out? And I said, no, it'll be okay. I'm going to be going back to work. We talked about it for a little bit longer, and once again I said, no, it'll be all right. And I went downstairs, got a drink of water. I was coming back upstairs. She met me halfway. She said, I'm going to go home. I have to go to work in the morning. I left you a surprise upstairs in your room. And I went back upstairs to my room, and there was a check for $1,000.
So what'd you do?
I called her cell phone and said, why'd you leave me this money? She said, because I care about you, and I want to see, I want to see you be okay. She said, just consider it a gift.
I don't know if she said that. Listen to me. Shh. Are you her mother? You didn't hear the story that he just told? That's more real than what she told me. So you can laugh all you like. That's pretty much what happened, except just consider it a gift. That she didn't say. Don't go overboard, Mr. Hager. When you're ahead of the game, don't stretch the truth. The truth was pretty good for a while. Probably was a gift. I don't believe that you asked her for a loan, that there was a repayment schedule. I mean, I don't believe any of that. You have to understand that, Ms. Schreck. But now I have a question for you, because I was interested. When I wanted to hear what you had to say, Mr. Hager, I believe you, that that's how it came about.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's what she would do. And she said, I cared about him being stressed. That's what girls do when they're in like. But then she was no longer in like with you, and you were no longer in like with her, and then we got the $1,000 that you've already spent, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you look like a sort of responsible young man. How old are you?
29.
And you own your own home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it didn't work out with her. So wouldn't a responsible man of 29 years old, a homeowner, you own your own car, I'm sure you have a bank account, you told me you lived off savings.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? But then you went back to work. Why didn't you start giving her back this money?
She had told me it was a gift.
Mr. Hager, she's not your mother, is she?
No, ma'am.
She's not a sister. She's not even your best friend. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So then what a moral person does is say, you helped me out, I needed it, we're not together, I want to start paying you back this $1,000. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that what a moral person does?
Yes, ma'am.
So you do want to be a moral person, don't you, Mr. Hager?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step 10 on the calendar in the matter of Lee versus Green.
Thanks, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Miss Lee, you purchased a vacation package from the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you could not use the package because it turned out to be non-transferable. You want your money back.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant has a different story, which I will allow him to tell me briefly. Where did you get this vacation package from?
Girlfriend.
Man, a few words. You got it from another girlfriend.
Another girlfriend, yes, ma'am.
Was the plaintiff a girlfriend of yours or just a friend?
Just a friend.
Now, when this girlfriend gave you the package, were you supposed to accompany her, or did she give it to you to go by yourself?
Well, I was supposed to accompany her on the trip, but I decided I didn't want to go.
When had she purchased it for you?
Back in August sometime.
And when did you decide not to use it?
About a week after she gave me the ticket, I decided not to use it.
Why didn't you give it back to her?
She didn't want it back. I just put the ticket up in the closet. She thought I was going to change my mind. She thought I was going to change my mind and go along with her. And I just put the ticket in the closet and just left it there.
So you didn't pay for the ticket?
No, I didn't.
And you didn't tell her right away that you had absolutely no intention of going and you're going to give her back the ticket?
She didn't want the ticket back.
Did you say to her, here's the ticket, I'm not going with you, I'm going to rip it?
She did not want the ticket back.
It's not my question. Did you hand her the ticket and say, I'm not using this ticket?
Miss Young lives in New York City. I live in Richmond, Virginia.
Yes.
We spoke on the phone. I told her I was not going on the trip. She told me to keep the ticket. I probably would change my mind, and I told her I wasn't going to change my mind, and I had the ticket.
How did it come about that you sold the ticket to Miss Lee?
I met Mary. She was in a beauty shop across the street from my house. Someone introduced me to her, and we were talking. A couple of days later, she came over, and she was in my bed, and I was talking on the phone about the ticket to Aruba. And
who were you talking to?
A friend, another young lady on the phone. And she decided that, she said, well, I'll go. So I didn't say anything. I just kept talking. And when I got off the phone, she wanted to know could she purchase a ticket. And I said, yes. She gave me $200 deposit. She gave me a $200 deposit in cash at that moment. She wrote a statement out. I told her if she wasn't here the next day to purchase a ticket with the balance of the money, she would lose her deposit.
You told her that as she was putting on her stockings, sir?
No, they were off.
So you told her, I'm taking your $200. if you're not here by tomorrow with the balance of the money, you're going to forfeit the $200.
Yes.
Then you would have gotten a free ticket that you paid nothing for, plus her $200. That would have been you spending money on your trip.
I wasn't going on the trip.
Boy, he must have something that I don't see. All right, Miss Lee, let's come to you because I'm getting a little nauseous from him. You bought the ticket. You gave him how much?
This was my second date with Mr. Green. Mr. Green telephone rang. A gentleman called wanting to buy these tickets for $1,000.
Listen to me, Miss Lee. Just answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Person of good judgment you are not, because I've listened to him for a total of 5 minutes and I could tell he's not worth very much. Okay? Not a person of good character. So you gave him how much money in total for the ticket?
I gave him a total of $700.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, so you purchased a ticket and he gave you the ticket. Were you able to use the ticket?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
The ticket was not changed into my name, and I did not have a new reservation number for the resort hotel by the time I got in Aruba. I got stopped in the Richmond International Airport as being a thief of stealing his ticket.
Was this ticket including airfare?
Including airfare,
Okay.
round-trip ticket, and hotel.
Okay. Were you able to use the airfare?
No, ma'am.
So you weren't able to use the airfare, so you couldn't get there?
I couldn't get there.
Let me see the ticket that you have, please. You went there with his ticket?
Because yes, ma'am.
You went there with his ticket?
To the airport, yes, ma'am, on October 7th.
She did never go to the airport. When I tried to have the ticket changed, I needed a social security number and a date of birth to change the ticket. She would never give me a social security number and her date of birth so I can have the ticket changed. Yeah. And at one point, she was calling me in the middle of the night, cursing, drunk, talking about, I want you to go on a trip with me, then we'll go on a trip. I said, no, I'm not going on a trip, and if you don't give me the social security number and date of birth, there's nothing I can do.
Why didn't you just have her call the travel agent and give them her date of birth?
She wouldn't do it.
Really?
I gave her the telephone number to the travel agent. She wouldn't do it.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Green. After the night that you sold her this ticket, were you intimate with her again?
No.
Never?
Never.
Yeah. Is there any reason for that?
When I called her, she didn't want to be bothered.
But you did call her again?
Yeah, quite a few times. And
After she bought the ticket?
I didn't bring the tapes.
Just answer my question.
I did not
bring... You're not answering my question. I'm in charge.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Judge.
Go ahead, Judge.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Green, after you spent an intimate night, he was sufficiently dissatisfied with your performance so as not to want to see you again. Did that make you angry, sir?
And later today...
You want to speak. I want you to open your mind, start receiving. Don't be sending out. Receive what I'm saying, because it's something that you don't know.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mary Lee says ex-boyfriend Willie Green owes for the cost of a bogus vacation package. Mary says she bought the tickets from him after their second date.
So, Mr. Green, let me understand this. She came and gave you the money for the ticket after you spent an intimate night, and evidently was sufficiently dissatisfied with your performance so as not to want to see you again. Did that make you angry, sir?
No, it doesn't.
Really? I think, Mr. Green, that you are not out any money, sir, because you didn't pay for this ticket. There are 3 people who were involved in this ticket. Let me understand this. There's Miss Lee, who paid $700 to you for the ticket. There's Miss Young, who bought you the ticket, right?
Right.
And paid whatever she paid for the ticket. Let's say she paid $1,000 for the ticket.
Paid $1,400.
Paid $1,400 for the ticket. So she paid $1,400, Miss Young. She paid $700. You paid zippo, nada, and you get $700. Is that right? That's what you think's going to happen? Wrong. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
With Mr. Green being a retired police officer, I expect him to have better standards.
She wanted me to go on a trip with her, and I just refused to go on a trip with her.
I just wanted to have a good vacation. I saved up some money, and I wanted Richmond, Virginia. That's all. And he cheated me, and he's a womanizer.
She's a jilted lover.
It's not accurate. He's the womanizer and the jilted lover. He's out to get whatever he can get from anyone.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Smith. Step forward, please.
26-year-old cosmetologist Crystal Smith is suing her aunt, daycare provider Veronica Smith, for the value of a 3-wheel ice cream bike. Veronica says the bike was stolen from her garage. She has a countersuit for unpaid rent and carpet cleaning fees.
Miss Smith, the defendant is your aunt.
Yes.
And it is your claim that she owes you for some sort of a bicycle that you were storing in her house that was stolen.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Me and my auntie, Veronica, we had made up agreement for us to sell candy out of her garage. Me and my husband, we supplied candy, snowballs, any kind of snacks.
So this bicycle was not a bicycle that you ride on, it was...
It was like a 3-wheeler, a tracker.
Have a picture of it?
I have not a photo picture, but I went on the internet and went online and got on their site. I have internet.
What one looks like,
Yes.
so that I have some idea of what it looks like. Okay, let me
Yes.
see it, please.
That's a model like it. The difference in that model.
Okay, so it's a bicycle that has it's a bicycle but has this little thing on top.
With the cooler system in the back with the umbrella.
And this is what you kept in her garage?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
She said she took it out of the garage. She forgot about the bike, left it out, and it came up stolen.
When was it stolen?
It was stolen on a Saturday night.
Do you know what happened?
It was stolen on Saturday night. So that particular night that we was in my garage, me and my family, we were playing some cards that night. So the bike was too big, so I didn't like no smoking in my house, so we was out there. And so I put the bike between my garage door and my car. It was in between. So some between Saturday night and Sunday, the bike got stolen. So in the first place, I did not give Krista Smith a permission to bring any bike to my house for any reason.
How long had the
bike had been there for...
Let me finish.
Okay.
How long had the bike been there before it was stolen?
The bike was been there for like 2 months. At the time that I told Krista for about 2 months to come and give her belongings out of my house. I kept saying, get the bike out of my house, get your stuff out of my house.
Did your aunt ever say to you, come and get your stuff out of the garage and house?
We had a get-together over one of my other auntie's house, my Aunt Mary. That night she mentioned, she said, I've been meaning to call you. I wanted to tell you to come and get the rest of the stuff out the garage. I said, I'm going to get a U-Haul, not this weekend, but next weekend, and I'll be over there to get the rest of the stuff that was there, because it was more than just the bike actually in the garage.
What was all your stuff doing in her garage?
We had a store set up in the back of her garage.
Why? Why?
We had started a business, and we had rented out an area that we were leasing. And the lease, the contract had got canceled. So in between time, I had called up my Aunt Veronica, and we had talked on the phone. Before we had actually opened up the store, she said we can come and store my belongings that I had there at her house.
How many times did your aunt tell you to get the stuff out of her garage?
Once.
When? Give me the date.
I don't know the exact date, because it was a weekend. We was over my Aunt Mary's house.
Do you know the date?
July 1st.
And when was the bike stolen?
The bike was stolen in August. August the 12th, 13th, whatever.
Okay.
And that was the agreement was signed. They would pay me $75 a week for selling the candy out of the garage. They never did pay me any money but once. They gave me $50 once. So after that, they would start bringing stuff to my house, bicycles, radios, and TVs and stuff. And as I said, hey, wait, hold up. So I got nowhere to put my stuff in my own house, in my garage and stuff. You guys got to, come get your stuff. They never could come get their stuff out of my garage. And after I tried to get in touch with Krista about the bike being stolen, for 2 weeks later, that's when she called me. And she called me on the phone, and then they started making threats against me, they're going to burn my house down.
When did you make the agreement with her about renting the space to sell the candy?
Around in June.
And the bike was stolen in August.
Right.
So that they had your permission, at least your niece had your permission, to keep the bike in your garage.
No, Anna. She had only permission to sell candy, not bring bikes and stuff.
I'm not talking about bikes. I'm talking about this bike. This was the one that was stolen, right?
Right. Right, that's what I
So
stole.
you knew that this was the one she was going to sell the candy from.
But I didn't know that she was going to... She didn't ask me to bring no bikes or anything down to my house.
Miss Smith, you're not paying attention to me. Maybe you're not following me. The law says that if you allow someone to store something in your garage, you want to speak. I want you to open your mind, start receiving. Don't be sending out. Receive what I'm saying, because it's something that you don't know. If you say to her, you can sell candy out of my garage and keep this in my garage, or even if you don't have an agreement with her for money, but you say, all right, you want to store it in my garage? I'll let you store it in my garage. And then at some point you say, listen, you got to come get your stuff out. You are still in a position where you have to exercise some ordinary care over her property. But what you did was you put this bike outside and then forgot about it. But for the fact that you brought it outside and forgot to bring it inside, it would have been inside. There was nothing else taken from the garage, right?
No.
So, this, you're responsible for.
But I did not give her permission to bring any bikes or anything down to my house.
Yes, you did, because you just told me, and you have a counterclaim. In addition to that, the reason I know that you did, because you have a counterclaim for rent.
I have a counterclaim for...
Shh. You're not receiving. You have a counterclaim for rent, and in your counterclaim, you said you had an agreement with your niece to sell candy out of your garage, and that they were going to pay you $75 a week starting June 1st.
Yes.
You also said that they damaged your carpet.
Right.
I have something to add.
When?
The mess was not made because we were not on the carpet. The carpet is only upstairs in the dining room. In the basement, it's the concrete flooring. In the garage, it's the same thing.
Who purchased this candy wagon? Who
Me and
purchased
my husband went together and purchased.
Let me see when this piece of equipment was purchased.
Here's the receipts.
You paid $2,500 for this thing?
Yes.
Now you have a store. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. When did you stop selling candy?
I'll say the week of the 4th of July.
So why didn't you get the bike out of her house until August?
Officially, we were still open for business. She did not tell us to...
That's not what I asked you. Why didn't you get the bike out when you stopped using it for business?
The week of the 4th, we could not sell any candy out of her premises because she said she was going to be out of town and we could not be there.
Fine, so that's out of town. When did she come back into town?
That following week. She was on.
Why didn't you start to sell your candy again?
Relocated with a new place of business.
So why didn't you get the bike out of her garage?
Because the candy and the bike and everything that we own were still stored in the garage as well.
How much did you pay her for the storage?
The storage was supposed to be $50.
How much did you pay her for the storage?
We did not have a storage fee set up. All we had set up was a weekly fee for the candy.
How much did you pay her?
The agreement was $50 a week. It was not $75 a week.
Fine. How much did you pay her?
I paid her $50.
You didn't pay for 3 weeks in June, nothing in July, and nothing till
the whole 2 months that we were there, we didn't sell candy the whole 2 months.
Why should she take care of your stuff? She told you to move your stuff in July.
The bike got stolen between the 27th of July and the first week of August?
When was the bike stolen?
About 20. August 20.
2 seconds ago, you told me it was the 15th.
It was stolen in August. It was stolen in August.
It was stolen the last week of
it was
July,
stolen
the
in
first
August.
week of August.
Show me. How do you know?
The 23rd of August is my brother's birthday.
Oh, please, give me a break. Listen, you left this thing here. It was her fault. It was her fault that this got stolen because she took it and she put it outside and she forgot to bring it back. You show a bill for $2,500.
Yes.
You expect her to pay you $2,500 for this?
I have a receipt.
No way in this earth is she going to pay you $2,500. You took advantage of her. You took advantage of her good nature. You were storing your stuff there. She had to, in order to accommodate herself and her friends playing cards, move your stuff around. She told you to move it. You said, I don't have to move it. I'll move it when I get good and ready.
No, I did not.
Well, you did not. I'm going to tell you something. She has some responsibility. But she has this much responsibility, and you have this much responsibility. She has $200 worth responsibility. You have the rest. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. Now, let's get to your carpet cleaning. Forget it. Let's get to your rent. Forget it. Do you understand? Forget it. don't do any more favors, and don't let any more of your relatives store stuff in your property, because ultimately, if something happens, they're going to come looking for you for money. Do you understand? Yes.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Sanquist, Ms. Perez and you were friends at one time.
Yes.
And you agreed to babysit for her children while she was working.
Yes.
According to you, the arrangement was you were going to get paid, and then you would fill out some paperwork because she was entitled to child care from the state.
Mhm.
And then you would accept the money that she got from the state for babysitting. Was that your agreement?
No, we had agreement, and when I first began babysitting, that when she receives her income tax, she will pay me. So I will watch them for $45 a day for 3 days a week, and that she will pay me when she gets her money from income tax.
When did you start to babysit for her?
In the month of December of last year.
And how many children do you have?
3, ma'am.
What kind of work were you doing in December of 2003?
I'm working at Dunkin' Donuts, though. Same job I've been working at for 3 years.
So you were working for Dunkin' Donuts.
Mm-hmm.
And how much were you earning there?
$7.10 an hour, ma'am.
You get paid every week or every 2 weeks?
Weekly.
How much is your net check every week?
Like $140.
Do you get any public assistance for the children in addition to the $140?
Yes, I receive food stamps from the state.
What other money do you get?
That's child support for my son.
How much do you get in child support?
$93, ma'am.
A what?
A week.
How old are your children?
My oldest is 11, my middle one is 7, and my smallest one is 2.
Okay. And what do you do for a living, Miss A?
I'm a student.
Full-time student? Were you a full-time?
No, part-time. Of course, I didn't register for school because I was depending on the income I was supposedly earning from watching the kids.
Is what you're telling me that you don't do anything right now? It's not an
When you
answer.
put it like that, I do have a disability, so I don't do too much, but I am focusing on school.
When you start, you'll focus. Right now, you're not focusing.
When I start and I don't have to worry about trying to find a job, right?
Miss Sanquist, how long had you and Miss Perez been friends?
We've been friends on and off for 10 years.
Is she telling me the truth when she says she works at Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes, she is telling you the truth.
And she, I believe, is telling me the truth when she says she earns $7 an hour.
Yes.
And that her take-home pay is $140 a week.
Yes.
And how many days a week were you supposed to watch her children?
3 days a week. That's
Just
when
a
she
second.
works.
3 days a week. So you expected her to pay you $135 a week.
Yes, I did.
Which means she would go to work for Dunkin' Donuts for $5 a week.
If I can...
No, just a second. I'm doing the math. The math is simple. She comes home with $140 a week, and she was supposed to pay you $135 a week for taking care of her children. That's the math.
That's the math. Can I comment?
Sure.
Erica's working, like she said, 3 years there, part-time. She works there because it's mandatory from the state in order for her to get medical and food stamps benefits. She doesn't have expenses. She doesn't pay rent. Her father owns the house she lives in. She doesn't have any bills. We had an agreement, and she has the funds to pay for it. She has boyfriends that have money that support her too. She has the money to make the agreement, and that's what
Ms.
happened.
Sanquist, Ms. Perez says that she was going to apply to the state, which does provide child care expenses for people who have low income, and that you did, in fact, fill out the paperwork.
Yes.
When did you fill out the paperwork?
We started the process around April or May.
When?
Your Honor, we started in July. I got papers.
July of what year?
Of 2004.
Well, she was babysitting for you from December until
No,
July.
Jessica's been babysitting my son, Your Honor, now all 3 kids. My son only since May of 2004.
Really?
Yes. I would never agree on paying a babysitter $135 a week when I only make a little chunk
140.
change.
It sounds
was
ridiculous.
never an agreement. No
Sounds
agreement.
ridiculous. Can I see the paperwork that you started to fill out?
And it's not my signature either. She forged my signature in it too, Your Honor. That's when it started, Your Honor.
Did you fill out these papers?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I say another thing, Your Honor?
Shh. Which child do you receive support for?
Cyrus, my son.
And Emily?
Emily and Melanie, I don't receive nothing for.
Well, they told you that in order for you to receive money, you have to at least apply for child support from the father of the other 2 children. Otherwise, they're not going to give you money through this program Care for Kids.
He's in jail for murder.
Is that Emily's father?
No, that's Melanie's dad.
That's Melanie's father. What about Emily's father?
Emily's dad, child support is looking for him right now. He got issues in court.
And a warrant for
and
his
he got
arrest.
a warrant out for his arrest
For
through
domestic
child support.
violence.
Okay.
How you know?
Okay. I know. How much money, if any, Miss Perez, did you receive from Care for Kids?
I don't receive no money from Care for Kids, ma'am.
Did you ever receive any
None.
money?
It goes under her name. The check comes under Jessica's name.
How much money, if any, did you receive from them?
Zero. Nothing.
Zero. Well, why
Can I comment?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't receive anything from Care for Kids because every time we applied, we were denied. Well, every time she applied, she was denied because of lack of information that she was supposed to provide, because of missing deadlines. They have deadlines. You miss it, they deny you. She was adamant about saying no, that we didn't start in January, February, March. In April and May, in the process of Care for Kids, we did start. The person I spoke to at 5/11/04 at 11:40 a.m. was Ingrid, and I have a list of names of people that I've been in contact with
All
from this
I have
company.
here, listen to me, all I have here is notification from the state that the application was received on July 9th, 2004. I don't have anything else. Listen to me. Do you have any proof that an application was submitted before that?
No, but I requested information, and they said they wouldn't give it to me, they would give it to her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She fought my sister in front of all the kids.
So you had a fight with her sister over somebody's ex-boyfriend, a story that, believe me, at this hour, I am totally disinterested in.
And later today,
While I may give you the car, I'm not going to give you the car and pay for your insurance, too, because that would be stupid.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jenny Zenquist says former friend Erica Perez owes for babysitting fees. Erica says Jenny incorrectly filled out the application for state aid.
Listen to me, madam. I do not believe you that you had an agreement with her to pay you $135 a week when all she earns is $140 a week. That just doesn't make sense. Nobody in their right mind is going to work for $5 a week and pay you $135 a week. What makes sense is that the two of you agreed that you would apply for this program and you would get the money from this program. She would turn it over to you and she would work. And the papers weren't filled out right, and then you had a fight. You had a fight because you had a fight over somebody's ex-boyfriend. I don't know whose ex-boyfriend. Whose was it?
Your Honor, she fought my sister in front of all the kids.
So you had a fight with her sister, and therefore all bets were off. That's what she says, that you had a fight with her sister over somebody's ex-boyfriend, a story that, believe me, at this hour, I am totally disinterested in. I am totally disinterested in the story of the fight that you had with her sister. As far as I'm concerned, when two ladies... What are you looking at me? It's such a ridiculous look on your face. I'm disinterested when ladies fight with each other. I think it's very unseemly. The only thing that I have to determine is whether I believe she made an arrangement to pay you her entire salary check. And I don't believe she did, so your case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Jessica's being now used to go out with my sister 5 years ago, so she got a grudge against my sister.
As far as the fight being over my boyfriend, it wasn't even about that.
She got him now. She's so insecure. She should be happy she got him now, though.
The guy has my name, Jessica, tattooed on his neck.
They make a perfect team together, both of them.
Show me the money.
She got what she deserves. She's crazy. She's crazy. Everybody in Bridgeport knows she's crazy. She's crazy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Denton versus Clevenger, step forward, please.
Computer analyst Julia Denton is suing her sister-in-law, student Patricia Clevenger, for the cost of a '96 Toyota RAV4. Julia says Patricia's husband totaled the vehicle.
Mrs. Denton, is this your brother?
Yes.
And this is your sister-in-law?
Yes.
According to your complaint, several years ago, your husband passed away.
Yes.
You say it was in 2001.
That's correct.
When he passed away, one of the things he had was an automobile that was in his name. You had a car, and you agreed to, at that time, let your brother and your sister-in-law use that car.
Correct.
Until the estate was settled, and with the understanding that when it was settled, you would sell them the car. Was that your agreement?
Well, we actually didn't make that agreement. When I loaned them the car to begin with, we didn't make that agreement. It took a long time for the estate to be settled. It wasn't settled until the end of May of 2004. As it got closer to that date, then we started talking about selling them the car. That was my intention, to either sell it to another party or sell it to them if they were still interested in buying it.
Once the estate was settled?
Right, because I was not able to sell any of the assets. He did not have a will, and I was the administrator of his estate. Right.
Okay. Now, you gave them the car to use from 2002, according to your complaint, until 2004. Now, my question to you is, in whose name was the car titled in 2004?
The title was in my late husband's name until after the accident.
Okay. Now, according to you, you insured the car up until May or June of 2004.
Correct.
And then sometime in May or June, you found out that you had started to insure the car.
I did insure the car. After,
When?
In May, after her mother told me that she was no longer carrying insurance on the car.
Okay, so you started to carry insurance on the car, even though you had no insurable interest in the car.
At that point, we felt like the car had been given to us. We had already tried to return the car several times. She said she had no use for the car.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that's a lie.
I'll get there. And at some point, about a month or so later, your husband had an accident with the car and it was totaled.
Yes.
And you got a check for how much?
$4,687.
Which you feel rightfully belongs to you.
Correct.
And you feel none of that belongs to her because it was your insurance policy.
Correct.
What do you think?
She gave us the car.
Stand up.
She gave us the car 3 years ago. We offered to give it back to her several times. She didn't want the car back. She had 2 cars and 1 driver.
Yes.
She had a Corvette.
Well, what did you say? I'm just curious. What did you say when you offered to give her the car back?
I said, here's the RAV back. You know, you can have it back. She said, no, keep it. Drive it. That's exactly her words. Keep it.
Now, why did you bring it over there?
Well, actually, I brought it over there to make sure that I wasn't encroaching upon her, to make sure that it was a gift, and if she wanted it back, she could have it back.
So you brought it back to her to see if you were encroaching?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Denton. When did you have the first conversation with regard to the estate settling and some papers that would necessarily have to be exchanged?
I found out that they had started to insure the car on June 17th. Up until that time, I carried full coverage insurance on the car.
You have any proof of
Yes,
that?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Put your hand down. Now, this car was a 1996 Toyota.
Yes.
It was insured until the 17th of June, 2004, not May. It was insured until 17 June, 2004.
Okay.
Full coverage. So you are mistaken that the car was not insured after May. So whoever gave you the information was mistaken.
That would be their mother.
Well, I don't know who it was, but certainly you didn't verify that with her, right?
No, I did not.
Right.
What had happened was, Your Honor, because I had been paying the insurance the whole time, I would give the little cards to my mother, because she lives in the same town they do, to go and give to them, and I had given her the wrong card. And she looked at the date and told them that there must not be insurance on the car because it's expired. They got insurance without my knowledge.
I don't see how they could get insurance. They had no insurable interest in the car.
It was a gift.
You had no insurable interest in the car. That's a matter of law. The car is not in your name. It would be like you deciding that you like the look of Bert's car and saying, I'm going to take out insurance on his car just in case he has an accident. And if he has an accident, I can collect on his car. You have to have an insurable interest in the car. The car was not in your name. And it's not something that is worth family feuding over. Sir, you have to use common sense. If she gave you the car, then the common sense would be, I cannot transfer the title to you in this car until the estate is settled, and that may take several years. But I'm giving you the car. But while I may give you the car, I'm not going to give you the car and pay for your insurance too, because that would be stupid. Put your hand down, troublemaker. Do you understand, sir? I'm ignoring your wife because she is not related to this lady, and you are.
Yes, ma'am.
So she doesn't care if she makes trouble, this one, but you should care if she makes trouble. If your sister was giving you the car as a gift, I would say to my brother, David, I want you to have this car. We can't do the paperwork on it right now. All you have to do is you take care of the maintenance, you take care of the insurance, you take care of all the expenses on the car, and at the appropriate time, I'll just transfer the title over to you. I would not say to him, I'm going to pay for all the expenses, including the insurance on the car.
She didn't pay for all the expenses.
The insurance! No, she's supposed to pay the expenses. I mean, something wrong with you? You look like a perfectly healthy man. Do you work? Are you employed?
Yes, I am.
Then why should she pay for the expenses? You're driving. Listen to me. Listen what you did with your wife. You had the full use of a car for 2.5 years. You had it fixed when it needed to be fixed. You put gas and oil in the car. You did whatever you had to do. Somebody else paid for the insurance. Then, at the 11th hour, because your wife got some misinformation, you insured the car. You had not paid for the car. And you came into a windfall of almost $5,000 for something that wasn't yours. Listen to me, sir. Under your theory, if you had had the car in April, which you did, of 2004, and if you had had an accident and she was paying for the insurance at the time, who would have gotten the insurance money? I'm not asking, put your hand down.
She obviously would have gotten it.
Right. She would have gotten the money. Would you have sued her?
Her insurance would have also paid for
Ma'am, I wouldn't sue a family member.
Right, because you would have done the right thing. And the right thing is, you don't come away with a windfall of almost $5,000, which is outrageous. Outrageous.
We did have medical expenses after the wreck.
Whose fault is that? Hers?
No, but her insurance would have paid it if she was carrying insurance.
Whose fault is that? Hers?
We
If
used
you
the
had
check to pay
medical
for the
insurance,
medical
sir,
expenses.
nobody would have had to pay medical insurance for you. You would have had taken care of it with your medical coverage. And if you're a working person, I assume your wife is working. She looks like she's an able-bodied person. You should have medical insurance.
I'm a
She's
student.
a full-time student.
She's too old to be a full-time student if she has other responsibilities.
I am a full-time student.
Okay. You owe $4,687. Judgment for the plaintiff. No good deed goes unpunished, madam.
Thank you very much.
Why does that excuse? You may step out. 323 on the calendar, the matter of Williams versus Grooming Dales. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mrs. Williams, you took your dog into the defendant's grooming establishment, and it is your claim that he abused you, he abused your dog, you had to take the dog someplace else to be finished, and you're suing him for several $100s. Miss Williams, what kind of a dog do you have?
A miniature schnauzer.
How long have you had the dog?
She's probably about 1.5 years old.
How many times have you had her groomed?
I had always groomed her myself. This was the first time she's ever been done professionally.
Okay, and why did you decide to have it done professionally this time?
She had been bitten by a brown recluse, and we...
What's a brown recluse?
A spider. She had a spider bite on her neck. Once we got her all well from the spider bite, we had decided that we wanted to take her to get a special treatment, just for her pain and suffering, for her own kind of thing, to make her feel pretty for a change.
Dogs don't know when they don't look pretty.
Well, we did.
They don't know if they're not pretty.
Well, their little pink bows and their polished nails.
They don't care about polished nails. Anyway, where do you live?
In Spring Hill, Tennessee.
So how did you find Mr. Loeb's grooming salon?
I had gotten a paper in the mail.
Okay, from one of these freebies that you get in the mail.
Yes.
Good. You called him and said you wanted to bring the dog in immediately.
Well, I told him that I saw his paper, and I explained to him that I would only be down in Columbia for a short period of time. Would it be possible to get her in and out of the time that I wanted?
So he said, fine, bring the dog in?
Well, first he told me that it wasn't possible for the hours that I needed to get done. Told him, okay, thanks for the call. He had a cute article in the paper, and I wished him well with his business. After that, he was like, well, let me think about this and see how we can do it. I can probably even schedule you an appointment so he could get the business. So I was grateful for the opportunity. He was willing to work with me, so I was certainly willing to take the dog for the drive.
So you had a 3-hour window, according to what I read in your paper?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you say to Mr. Loeb when you got there?
I told him that we would be back at about 12:30 to pick her up. He took down my phone number, and when we left, he called my cell phone to confirm that this was the dog that he had to have out within the 3 hours. Told him that, yes, that was her. He said, great, he'd see me about 12:30. So when I came back at actually about 12:45, I just asked him if the dog was ready. He was outside having ice cream, so I assumed that she was ready. And he said no, that he had washed the dogs in the morning, and they were still drying. And I told him, I said, you are aware of the time? And he said, can you give me another 20 minutes? I said, sure, I can do another 20 minutes, but understand that's cutting it very close. So he said, okay, fine. I left for about 20 minutes, and I came back, and he came out behind the partition and asked me, how did I want her cut? Told her she's a miniature schnauzer we had discussed in the morning. I wanted a miniature schnauzer cut. And I told him, I said, you are aware that we are already behind and that I don't have much time left, and when it comes time that I have to go, I have to go. He said he's aware of that. He's doing the best that he could do. He was behind the partition. I could hear him back there. I mean, he was being very rude to my dog.
How was he being rude to your dog?
He was, I mean, the way he was, it was like, stop it, stop it. And whenever I got there in the morning, I explained, he asked me what kind of a temperament she had. I told him that I had always groomed her and I put a muzzle on her myself, that I would recommend and suggest that he do the same thing. When I got there, he told me that my dog did not behave. And I asked him, I said, what dog do you know that hops up on the table and says, please give me a haircut? I mean, I expected her to not have a good time with the clippers against her.
Miss Williams, I thought you told me a moment ago that you were taking this dog in as a special treat for her.
Yes.
Because she had a spider bite, so you wanted to give her a special treat.
Right.
Well, dogs are used to having you groom her, so you take her to a stranger, and you just said to me, what dog do you know that likes to have a clippers taken to? So this wasn't a special treat for the dog, this was a special treat for you.
I guess, so you just see her look pretty.
Well, I'm just telling you, it's a special treat for you. Okay, so let's move on. So when he's talking rudely to the dog, go ahead.
Well, he was obviously irritated with me outside when I asked him, since he was outside eating ice cream, I assumed my dog was done. That's when the obvious irritation with him started. When we were inside, I would tell him, you know, this is how long it's been, how much longer is it going to be? A few more minutes, a few more minutes.
Is that the way you was talking to him? You said, how much longer is it going to be, just that way?
Yes, I was not, at this point, I wasn't rude
and
or upset.
And he said just a few more minutes?
Yes.
Just a few more minutes. Okay, so?
So I waited a few more minutes and it still wasn't done.
Okay.
And then when it came down to that very last moment where I knew that even if I caught a long red light, I was going to be late. So I just told him, I said, whether she's done or not, I have to take her with me now.
Okay.
So he put her down and he gave her to me, and she was a mess. I mean, she just looked like she had not had a bath. She had puffs of hair on her where there was not other puffs of hair. She was just a mess.
Okay, she wasn't finished. So
Yes.
what's next?
I offered to pay half the bill. I mean, he did half the work. And he said, no, just take your dog and get out of here. And don't ever come back.
Okay.
I mean, he was very rude to me.
Okay, so he told you to take your dog and go and don't come back.
Right. As we were leaving out of the store with the dog, he came running out behind us, hollering obscenities behind us. I took the dog and went straight to my car to lock the door because I did not feel safe. I mean, for him to chase me out of the store. When we got in the car, I realized that my dog's eye was swollen. And then when I got home, both of them were swollen shut. So I called my husband and I explained to him the incident that happened at the store, the fact that the dog was hurt, and we had decided that she had to go to the vet. He called himself to talk to the groomer to find out what happened.
Well, what conversation did you have with him, Mr. Williams?
Well, I called him and I tried to talk to him. I said, hey, what's going on? What happened with the dog? Well, this guy here, he was really rude. He was loud. He was yelling at me on the phone, and I called to inquire about any services that he had done for the dog.
What were you calling to inquire about?
To find out what happened, why she didn't get groomed, why my wife was upset.
Just a second. What does he care why your wife is upset? I don't understand why you called him. Now, if you said to me, I called him because the dog's eyes were shut and I didn't know what happened, if that's the first thing you said to me, Mr. Williams, then I would say, well, that's legitimate. If you take a dog in, and even if it's not groomed the way you like it, and you take the dog half groomed and you leave, so he didn't charge you. He just said, take the dog. You're nutty. I don't want to deal with you or your dog anymore. There's no reason to call him. But if you're calling to inquire as to the eyes, that would have been the first thing you told me.
Right.
But that wasn't the first thing you told me.
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Well, she was upset. She called me.
Who cares if she's upset? He doesn't care if your wife's upset. Only you care.
Right. So I wanted to figure out what had happened to make her upset and what happened with the dog.
Who cares?
She said that she was in pain, that she was not feeling well, that it didn't go well. She had a bad experience.
Who, she or the dog?
My wife did.
Not
the dog.
Listen to me. Get over it. How old are you?
30.
Get over it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't know whether she was mad at me, got in the car, slapped the dog across the head.
No, Mr. Lowe, didn't happen.
And later today,
Listen to me very carefully. It doesn't belong to you. It's not your desk.
Who says it's her desk?
I do.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Williams and her husband Marcus claim dog groomer Don Loeb Jr. abused their miniature schnauzer. Don says Catherine was a nightmare customer.
Okay. Have a vet bill for me to look at and a diagnosis of the eyes?
I do.
Jeez.
I have pictures of the dog as well.
Did you put some sort of cream in the dog's eyes for grooming?
No, ma'am.
What did you use to wash the dog?
We use a cream rinse shampoo, conditioner. The head area is washed with a baby shampoo. It's a tearless, non-toxic shampoo.
Well, evidently this dog did not react well to your tearless shampoo.
I don't know what happened after she left the facility. I don't know whether she was mad at me, got in the car, slapped the dog across the head.
No, Mr. Logue, listen to me very carefully, sir. That's not what happened. How much after you took the dog out of the grooming salon, Miss Williams, did you take the dog to the vet?
I got her in that day. It was the first opening they had was like 4:45.
Okay, let me tell you, before we get on with this, I'm not interested if Mrs. Williams didn't have a good experience at your grooming salon.
Yes, ma'am.
And if her husband is interested in whether or not she was upset and wasn't feeling well, that's his problem. My problem is with the dog. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes.
You're a big girl. You're 30 years old. You had a bad experience with a merchant? You don't go back there.
Right. I would have understood that if my dog hadn't been hurt. I would have just never gone back. It would have not been an issue any further.
Well, but my problem is your husband. When your husband called him, your husband didn't call him and say to him, "You hurt my dog."
Well, I did.
No, the first thing
The first thing I told you that, but I did talk to him about that.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Okay.
Stop poking him. He can speak for himself. Move over. Put your hand down. The first thing you said you discussed with him was your wife's emotional state.
Right.
And I'm telling you, that's not his business.
Right. But we did discuss the dog because I picked her out when she was a baby. That's my baby there. That was the first dog I ever
Then that
had.
would have been the first thing I would have
And
talked about, not my wife not
When
being
she
happy.
called me to see what's up, I had to see both sides of the story. I just can't sit and take her side. I want to know what happened. So when I called him to see what happened, he gave me his side of the story. And after he hung up with me, he called me back to complain to my manager for me calling and complaining about the services that were done on my dog. I thought that was ridiculous. If I get a hamburger at Wendy's and it's not done right and I go back and complain, they don't call me back and say, well, we're complaining because your hamburger was wrong. I mean, you don't do that.
Mr. Williams, explain something to you, sir. Your wife called you very upset, which made you upset. So you called him upset. He says, well, I'm going to have to deal with this. I dealt with this lady. She wanted fast service. I gave her fast service, lousy service, Mr. Logue, but fast service. I didn't charge her for taking care of her dog. I didn't take such good care of her dog, which is a good reason not to charge her for taking care of the dog. You got the wrong groomer. There's no reason to call him. None. Just to make yourself feel better. In any event, you did a bad job, Mr. Logue. I'm a pet lover.
Me too.
And I've been to good groomers, and I've been to groomers that take shears and cut a little too close in very sensitive places, which is what the vet said happened here. I've seen what that can do to a dog. The dog clearly had an adverse reaction to whatever shampoo you were using. Miss Williams, the dog wasn't going to react well to a groomer because she had been used to being groomed by you. That doesn't mean Mr. Logue did a good job. He did not. He was not careful enough with this dog. I'll hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Because this vet doesn't have any axe to grind, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Ma'am, I groom dozens of miniature schnauzers.
So?
The underside of the dog, around the abdomen area, it's shaved the same way every time. I didn't see any clipper burn on the dog at all. There was no
The
clipper
vet
burn
did.
when he left it.
Let me tell
when
you
he left.
something, sir. I credit what the vet says in the vet's report. The vet says that both eyes were inflamed, excessive tearing. It says no ulcerations were found in the corneas. So this is clearly just an irritation from whatever you used on the dog, whatever shampoo that you used. Maybe the dog was allergic to the shampoo that you used. That's possible, but that happened. There was also a clipper burn present around her vulva.
Yes, ma'am.
That comes from you.
I don't know whether Miss Williams took her home. She said she's groomed this dog before. I don't know whether she took the
Mr. Lowe,
clippers to him or what.
didn't happen. Didn't happen. It happened at your establishment. She didn't take the dog home and look at the dog that's eyes are closed shut, clearly in distress, and decide to shave her. That doesn't make common sense. The only thing Miss Williams has is she tends to go on a little bit, you know, tends to be a little verbal, but she's not crazy. You are responsible for her vet bills. Not necessarily to re-groom the dog. I assume you're going to be smart and continue to groom the dog yourself from now on, because at 1.5 years old, it's very hard to retrain a dog to go to a groomer. Should have done that when the dog was a puppy. Then what?
The dog was very uncooperative.
Of course.
It was very hard to groom, and she stood outside in my foyer with her 5-year-old kicking my wall, and the dog went even more nuts. I tried and tried to get this dog groomed.
Then what you should have done, sir, is taken the dog and said, I can't groom your dog.
When she called me a D word, and I don't mean Dallas, I gave her the dog.
Oh, I believe that she cursed at you. You did, right?
I did.
She brought a friend with her.
I mean, I know you did, because that sounds really sweet, but I know that you cursed at him.
I did. After I became irritated, I did.
Well, did he curse at you first?
No,
No.
he didn't use a curse word, but he was rude to me first.
He was rude to you. He was rude to your dog. Get over it. You're 30 years old.
I understand
But you
that.
cursed at him because you were very fast to tell me that he came out after you, cursing at you.
Yes.
Right? But you didn't tell me I cursed at him.
I did say one curse word.
What?
Ma'am, it's 5 years as a police officer. I don't chase people outdoors attempting to assault people. I'm a former
I can
officer.
imagine she irritated you, sir. You have to take care of her vet bills. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $70. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She had a 5-year-old child with her, and the child was kicking the walls, disturbing the dog.
My 3-year-old was playing in the lobby while we were waiting longer than we were supposed to get my dog back.
It was just a wild situation.
I think that it was an unfortunate situation.
I don't know what she did with the dog or to the dog or how much time went by after she left my facility.
I did not hurt my dog myself. My dog left his shop hurt.
That dog was fine when that dog left my facility.
He just didn't handle it the right way.
If I see her face coming toward my door again, I'm going to lock it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Callahan versus Colarusso, step forward, please.
Business owner Dawn Callahan is suing her father's ex-girlfriend, homemaker Dee Colarusso, for the return of her late mother's desk. Dee claims the desk was abandoned.
Miss Callahan, Miss Colarusso is your father's former girlfriend.
Correct.
According to your complaint, your father has a desk that belonged to your mother, who passed away, and the desk was to be yours. He was bringing it to you. And he stopped over at his girlfriend's house, and for some reason he left his truck there for a while and the desk. They subsequently broke up. She has your desk. You want it back.
Yes.
You have a picture of the desk?
No, I don't.
Do you?
No, certainly.
I'd like to see it, please. Oh, it's a pretty little lady's desk.
Yes.
Where is it, in your living room?
No, it's upstairs in my bedroom.
How long do you know Miss Callahan?
I'd say approximately a year and a half. Year.
Is she a nice person?
At times.
When did your mother pass away?
April 26, 2002.
Was this her desk?
Yes, it was.
Did you tell Miss Colarusso that it was your mother's desk?
Yes, I did.
When did she tell you that?
To my recollection, I had never heard anything about it except that Lynn moved it into my home 2 months after he moved into my home.
He did?
Yes, and left it in my garage.
Yes.
It proceeded to get mildew, all kinds of markings, and all the rest of it. I had a couple of friends come in, empty it out, put the stuff into a green bag to lighten it so they could move it upstairs into my upstairs apartment, and they did so. So now it's been receiving much better care.
Well, that's very nice, but it's not your desk.
Well, I consider it storage fee.
I don't care what you consider it. You had a storage arrangement with him?
No.
Well, if you didn't have a storage arrangement with him, my dear, then you can't say I'm taking the desk for storage fee.
I took his car for storage fee.
Listen to me very carefully. It doesn't belong to you. It's not your desk. Romance is over. It's over. You can't just decide you're going to protect the property that doesn't belong to you and then somebody says, I want my desk back. You say, well, I took it upstairs and I've been taking care of it, so now it's mine. You have to give her back the desk 5 days from today. Make arrangements with the mover. You want to leave the desk upstairs and have her mover bring it downstairs, or you want your mover to bring it downstairs?
Who says it's her desk?
I do! Now, that's her father. Whose desk is it?
My daughter's desk.
Right. Belonged to her mother. She wants her mother's desk, and she doesn't want you to have it. And it holds absolutely no sentimental value for you whatsoever, just mad value because you're not together with the prize package anymore. She gets a desk back in 5 days. I'll sign the order. That's it.
Excuse me?
What?
My paperwork, all my mother's legal paperwork that was inside there, 401ks and everything. Can
I don't
get
know where
back
that
to
is. Where is it?
Gone.
What did you do with it?
It went out with the trash. All the trash that Lenny had dumped.
It's gone. Listen to me. It's probably gone. She's not nice. She's probably mad. Did he dump her?
In a nice way.
I don't care whether it's a nice way. It's never a nice way to a lady to get dumped. Did he dump her?
Yes.
That's what she did with your mother's stuff that was inside the desk.
Okay.
Dumped it. Got it?
Okay.
The desk you get back. 5 days.
Okay.
And it better be in good condition. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step back.
Versus Garcia. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Banks, it is your claim that the defendant had you falsely arrested for assault. This was not the first altercation that you've had with him, but you claim that this time you were tried and ultimately found not guilty after a jury trial. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You want him to compensate you in the amount of $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garcia says that you did, in fact, assault him. He has the injuries to prove it. He is counterclaiming for $5,000 for the assault. So, what created this problem between the two of you? Do you live close by to each other?
5 doors away, ma'am.
And how long have you lived 5 doors away from the defendant?
I've lived in my current residence just under 4 years, ma'am.
What about you, Mr. Garcia? How long have you lived in your current residence?
I've lived there for 9 years.
When did you and Mr. Garcia start to have difficulty, Mr. Banks?
In the month of May, we had...
May of what year, sir?
2002.
So for a long time you lived there peacefully with Mr. Garcia?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's try to find out what the catalyst was in May 2002 that created the problem.
Mr. Garcia drove through the neighborhood, speed limit being 25. He drove approximately 40 miles an hour past my house. Witnesses here were both across the street.
He drove by 40 miles an hour in
On
a
a
car?
motorcycle.
On a motorcycle?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garcia, when did you get a motorcycle, sir?
About a month before then.
So before you got the motorcycle, everything was just dandy?
Yes.
So would you say, Mr. Garcia, that the problem was precipitated by your motorcycle?
Yes, Your Honor.
See how much progress we're making? Okay, Mr. Banks, let's have the incident that you are referring to today with regard to the false arrest.
That evening, Mr. Garcia...
Give me the date.
July 15th, 2002.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Garcia instigated a fight with individuals at a party.
How did he do that?
He drove very close to an individual who was giving the party.
Where did that individual live?
There would be 3 houses from Mr. Garcia.
And he was on his motorcycle?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
He had a verbal altercation, at which time there was a shoving match, and he got punched in the head, knocked him out. They tried to retrieve his senses, put him back on his motorcycle, and sent him home. When his senses came back, he got upset and continued the fight. The fight resulted in various bruises and injuries that he's got pictures of.
And you took no part in that?
I watched.
How many people were at the party, Mr. Banks?
Approximately 20.
How many men?
I would say half were men.
So 10 men?
Yes, ma'am.
Of the 10 men, how many participated in the beating of Mr. Garcia?
About 5, ma'am.
And you were present at all times?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me the names of the 5.
I can give you 3 who I do not know. Isaac, Daniel, and David.
Did you tell that to the police?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I was accused of being involved in it. It was not my job to do the inquiry as to...
Well, if somebody said to me, I was accused, I would say, listen, I was there, and I wasn't unhappy that this guy was getting beat up because, you know, he was a jerk before, and I did nothing to help him. But it wasn't me who beat him up. I can give you the names of the people who beat him up. Don't take me to jail. I didn't do it. Wouldn't that sound like what a normal person would do?
I did not physically have the altercation with him, and he deserved what he asked for. No, I was not giving him the names.
Now, you were arrested, Mr. Banks. Did you retain a lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
I assume that your lawyer made a motion to dismiss the case?
Several times.
And that motion to dismiss was denied?
Yes, ma'am.
What criminal act were you tried on? Assault in what degree?
Assault, bodily injury.
So it was a felony?
No, misdemeanor, Class A, ma'am.
Did Mr. Garcia testify?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he have witnesses who testified also?
No, ma'am.
Did you testify?
No, I did not testify, ma'am.
Did you have witnesses who testified on
Yes,
your
ma'am.
behalf? Are any of those witnesses here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Which witnesses?
Both, ma'am.
Both were there that
Yes.
evening?
Alan and Anita. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, step up, sir. Tell me your last name.
Goodner?
You were there on the evening of the 15th of July?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what you saw.
Ches drove by on his motorcycle. I think there was a beer can thrown or something like that.
At him?
At him.
Okay,
Someone
so
in
he
the
didn't
party.
just go by.
No,
he
did. He tried to run over. I mean, people were in the street, and he did speed by. He turned back around, and he started having
After
words
s-
with everybody.
After somebody threw a beer can at him.
No. Well,
Yes.
yes, he did turn around after the beer can, but I'm
Just
sure he
pay
would turn around
atten-
anyway.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't anticipate what I'm going to say, Mr. Goodner.
Yes, ma'am.
Just listen very carefully. Put all your thinking caps on.
Yes, ma'am.
And think very carefully about what I'm saying so that you can give me a truthful answer. Because if you don't give me the truthful answer, I will make you look very foolish. And you don't want that
Yes,
in front of
ma'am.
10 million people.
Yes, ma'am.
So he turned around because somebody threw a beer can at him.
Yes, that's correct.
And then what happened?
He got off the motorcycle and approached Isaac and pushed him. Pushed him several times, and Isaac finally had enough of it, and then that's when he hit him. He got knocked out for a few seconds and got back up and proceeded to fight him. And that's when everybody jumped in to get him off of Isaac.
Who's everybody?
Several people.
Name them.
David, Isaac, and Daniel.
What about you?
No, ma'am, I did not. I didn't want to take part in any part of this because
Well, give me the names of the other people who were there.
I really don't. I know Matt was there. That's about it. Only half of them were my friend.
And what about Mr. Banks? Where was he?
In the driveway, talking to Tanya, a girl
Who's
there.
Tanya?
A girl that lived at the house.
Okay. Just step up. Sure. Your name?
Anita Dore.
Are you a neighbor?
Yes, I am.
How long have you lived in the neighborhood?
I have been in the house 3.5 years.
Mr. Garcia's motorcycle, has it presented a problem in the neighborhood?
Oh, yes, it has.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, we have a long stretch in front of our street from stop sign to stop sign, and he zooms by, doesn't stop at the stop sign, and it's always real fast. And I had asked him, to slow down because my children could be in the yard or, playing or in the street, and accidents happen.
And what did he say?
He informed me that if they were in the effing street, then he would effing run over them.
What's wrong with you, Mr. Garcia?
Ma'am, I've never said that. I've never talked to this woman before.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I said, okay, well, how do you know I was speeding? It's a motorcycle. It's loud. I stopped at the stop sign.
You shouldn't be riding a loud motorcycle at 12:30 in the morning, Garcia. You understand?
Ma'am, it's really not that loud, but...
It's that loud!
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kenneth Banks says neighbor Ches Garcia had him falsely arrested for assault. Ches says Kenneth beat him up.
Mr. Garcia, you seem to have a problem with your motorcycle. You lived peacefully in a neighborhood for 9 years, no problem with you. Then you bought a motorcycle and all this trouble started, sir.
I haven't ridden a motorcycle since.
Since you got beaten up?
Right.
Well, that's a good idea, Mr. Garcia, and I assume you haven't had problems since. Mr. Banks, let me explain to you, sir, why you have no case. You went to trial in a criminal case. At the end of the case, after Mr. Garcia testified, your lawyer made a motion to dismiss that case, as every good lawyer does. The judge who heard that case said, no, no, no. This case has to proceed to the end because there is sufficient evidence to establish that you were involved in that beating. If your case had been dismissed and the judge said there is no evidence whatsoever linking Mr. Banks to this assault, then you might have been able to proceed civilly against Mr. Garcia. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not so sure, Mr. Banks, that you weren't involved. You may not have started it. You were certainly happy that it was happening, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You should never be happy when somebody is getting pulverized, sir. The fact that he may have been endangering some people in the neighborhood by reckless driving of this motorcycle does not mean that he deserves to lose his life. Now you may be seated for a moment. Now I'm going to get to your counterclaim, Mr. Garcia. I assume you have some terrible pictures for me to see.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Banks, so that you'll understand this, he is allowed to proceed against you civilly, even if you were found not guilty by a jury, because the quantum of proof in a criminal case at the end of the whole case is by beyond a reasonable doubt. And the jury found that you were not guilty by beyond a reasonable doubt. They did not find that you were innocent. Quantum of proof here in this case is proof by a preponderance of the evidence, just a little bit of evidence, more so than not. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, please hand Officer Byrd the photographs, and you tell me, sir, your version of what happened, Mr. Garcia, on the 15th of July.
It was around 1 o'clock in the morning. I was coming home from work on my motorcycle. I was slowing down to stop at the stop sign that's in front of the house where the party was going on, and somebody threw a beer can at me. So I turned around and I said, what's the problem? And they started telling me I better get out of there and this and that. And when I looked up, I see Mr. Banks coming from in between two cars in the driveway, and I tell him, don't touch me, don't talk to me. I've got a lawsuit against you right now. And they said, if you talk to me, you'll be arrested. Well, when I said that, he turned his head and he bit me in the nose. At that point, I freaked out and I took off and I turned around, and then I hear somebody yelling, "You tried to hit me." I got pushed off of my motorcycle, and me and Isaac started fighting, and the next thing I know, I have 4 people on top of me kicking me in the face. They broke my eye socket. I've got 2 titanium plates in there forever. I can't wear contacts anymore. They broke my nose.
Did you sue the other people?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I haven't had a chance yet.
What do you mean you haven't had a chance yet?
This has been going on for a year. Really, I'm at the point where I just want to be left alone.
Just a second. Mr. Garcia, do you have the police report that you filed?
I didn't actually file it. The police officer wrote it when I was in the hospital, and
How many people were tried for the assault?
Just 1.
Why is that?
I didn't know any other names.
Well, what kind of an investigation was done by the police, sir?
They didn't do anything. They really didn't.
Well, Mr. Garcia, that's outrageous, sir. I mean,
I know.
Here we have Isaac, David, and Daniel. Very easy to figure out. They all have last names. What's Isaac's last name?
That we don't know.
If we knew.
David.
No clue.
Daniel.
I have no clue.
Don't believe any of you. Who are you?
Chez's mother.
Were you there that evening, the 15th of July?
I was at home. I didn't witness any of the attack. But the police officer, when we were in the hospital, he said we had to get the names.
Listen to me. That's not your job. The police department is supposed to do the investigation.
Right.
I'm outraged. What country do you live in?
We live in Texas, and this whole thing has just been preposterous.
How old is your son?
My son is 21.
Okay. Who bought him the motorcycle when he was 19?
He bought it himself.
I was actually 20 when I bought it.
Where is it now?
It's sitting in the backyard.
Sell it.
I'm going to. I'm trying.
That's a very good idea.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I opened the door and I grabbed the knife out of the kitchen and I told him to get out of my yard. Well, he runs off down the street and he gets a pistol out of his truck and he comes into my front yard, sticks the gun to my head, walks me all the way into my house.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kenneth Banks says neighbor Chez Garcia had him falsely arrested for assault. Chez says Kenneth beat him up.
You still live close to each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I say something, ma'am?
Sure.
Mr. Garcia says I bit him. If you would look at the photos, you'll see no bite marks on it.
There is no indication in any of the photographs that he was bitten in the nose.
Ma'am, actually, there is a picture of my nose, and I have 2 marks on each side of the nose.
Sir, these 2 marks on this side of your nose could not have been made by a human being.
Well, I mean, he did. He bit me in the nose, and then Alan told me that I was lucky I wasn't killed because he's an ex-Marine.
Oh, I believe that the whole mob scene could have killed you. I'm just absolutely amazed that you didn't pursue these other people.
I tried to my fullest, and the officer wouldn't return our calls. We got a hold of the DA to try to get her to get a hold of him, and it just didn't go through.
I don't know why it didn't go through. But I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Banks. How old are you, sir?
38, ma'am.
Whether or not you participated in this assault, I am appalled that you sat back and watched. I mean, he's 20 years old. 20 years old is a moron. You're double his age. You can have a child his age. You permitted him to be assaulted badly, where they really could have killed him, because you think he deserved it because he was driving his motorcycle too fast.
Ma'am, that was not why I let it go on.
Well, then you tell me, Mr. Banks, why you let it go on.
Prior incident when he lied to the police, I spent a night in jail. At that point, no, I was not going to get involved in.
Another incident that involved an alleged assault?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
June 6, 2002.
And you were arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened to that case?
That was no bail by the grand jury, ma'am.
Were you assaulted on June 6th?
It was actually May 11th. What had happened is I was driving home from down the street. It was about 12:30.
On your motorcycle?
Yes, ma'am.
12:30 in the morning or at night?
12:30 in the morning. And I hear beating on my door about 10 minutes after I get home. I open the door and I see Mr. Banks and Alan at my front door. I had never met them before. I walked outside and I said yes, and he said, "You're speeding, and I don't appreciate this and that." And I said, "Who are you?" And he says, "Well, I live over there." And I said, "Okay, well, how do you know I was speeding? It's a motorcycle. It's loud." I stopped at the stop sign.
You shouldn't be riding a loud motorcycle at 12:30 in the morning, Garcia. You understand?
Ma'am, it's really not that loud. But
It's that loud.
Anyway, he proceeded to push me up against the brick wall, and I smelled the alcohol in his breath. And I said, look, you need to leave or I'm going to call the cops. And he told me if that's what I better do if I know what's right for me. And he kept pushing me against the wall. And at that point, I opened the door and I grabbed the knife out of the kitchen and I told him to get out of my yard. Well, he runs off down the street and he gets a pistol out of his truck and he comes into my front yard and sticks the gun to my head at the driveway and walks me all the way into my house.
So what happened with that case?
They never contacted me. All I heard was it was no building. They couldn't tell me anything.
The only thing that I have to decide today is whether or not he's responsible for your beating.
Right.
You want to say something else?
Yes, ma'am. On behalf of Ken, do I approach her?
Sure.
Well, that night, whenever the knife got pulled, he pulled it on. He ran after Ken. I stood in front of the knife for Ken. Ken came back, felt I was in danger while his dogs were running after Ken. Ken came back with the gun on behalf of my life.
What did you go over to his house for?
Because it's better than calling the cops. And do neighborly thing, go over and just talk to him. You know, I'd be mad if someone called the cops on me. Go over and talk to him. It wasn't as violent as it thinks. He flipped out. He came outside running. You could hear him scraggling
What
in the
were
kitchen.
you doing with Mr. Banks at 12:30 in the morning?
Hanging out.
Hanging out and drinking?
Yes, ma'am, I was drinking.
Yes. Sit down.
Yes, ma'am.
You have something to contribute to this?
Yes, ma'am. About 3 days ago, I was at my other next-door neighbor's house.
You're his brother?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And he comes up and tries to talk to me, and I don't really want to have anything to do with him.
Who's he?
Alan. And it boils down to where he was saying that it's real manly for Mr. Banks to pull a gun on my brother, saying that he's lucky, my brother is lucky that he didn't get shot that night.
You think that everybody got a little hot?
Yeah.
I think so, too. I'm absolutely amazed that the district attorney in Texas did not pursue the case against these other people. I'm unimpressed by the fact that an ex-Marine would allow a mob, if I were to believe him, to assault a youngster in his presence. You are under no obligation to stop that mob. But I think to say I'm an ex-Marine is sort of besmirching, in my judgment, that branch of the military. Because I think that your behavior that day, even if you did not participate in this assault, was abominable, Mr. Banks. Understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You don't have a case against Mr. Banks, Mr. Garcia, because I am not satisfied that aside from looking and gloating over the fact that you were getting the crap kicked out of you, that he actually participated in this assault. And Mr. Banks, you have no case against Mr. Garcia. Because, as I said, the district attorney and the judge presiding over the trial, your trial, for assault, felt that there was sufficient evidence to proceed and give it to a jury. And our justice system does not give you 2 bites of the apple. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. May step out. 5:56 on the calendar in the matter of Tillinghast versus Stott. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
How old are you, Tony?
20.
And you?
21.
You two gals had been friends and decided to take an apartment together. According to your complaint, the defendant owes you some money because you leased this apartment and she moved out early. Didn't pay the rent for 3 months. The defendant says that her boyfriend settled with you. She's got a counterclaim. She said that your friends destroyed a mattress of hers. What prompted you to take an apartment together?
We've been best friends all our lives. We live next door to each other. I wanted to get out of my parents, and she wanted to move out to hide her relationship with her boyfriend over there.
That's you?
Yes.
Okay. How old are you?
59. 60. I just turned 60 yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
You have children?
Yes.
How old?
35 and 37.
When did you lease this apartment?
In the end of May.
And how long was the lease?
6 months.
What was the rent?
$965.
So far, is all of that correct?
Yes.
You thought your parents wouldn't like the idea of going out with this gentleman?
Correct.
They think he was a little too old for you?
Correct.
When did you move out?
August 27th, 2004.
Why?
The plaintiff here, which Tony, she had her friends over. They were drinking, smoking pot, drinking beer. There was condoms on the floor, and one of her friends had threatened me, so I called the police and I moved out.
One of her friends had threatened you with what?
verbally threatened and also picked up a pen and acting like she was going to.
That's not true. Just a second. When did this happen?
The night of August 27th.
What was the argument about?
The argument was about her friends and her all over my belongings, trashing some of my stuff that I had.
Were you spending every day at the apartment?
No.
You were spending most of the time at your boyfriend's home?
Yes.
So you were really just paying the rent for this apartment as a beard?
Yes.
Are you living together now?
Yes.
Have your parents accepted that?
No. They know about it, but no, they have not.
Did you give her any money for the remaining 3 months on the lease?
I gave her $400 in, I believe it was...
When?
September.
After you left?
Correct. And then another $400 in October.
Why?
Because the day was August 28th. It was a Saturday. After her friend had threatened to throw the manager off the balcony, again, the police were called. And when I moved out, there was a verbal agreement between her and I and my boyfriend that said we will pay you $400 this month and $400 next month to make a total of $800.
Are you still living in the apartment?
No.
When did you leave?
I left right after the lease because I couldn't afford it and my bills were past due.
Tell me about your friends in the apartment. Do they spend a lot of time in the apartment, Tony?
I have my witness, Ashley. She was in the apartment quite often because she was not doing well with her father, so she was there a lot.
Interesting. Come on up. Talk to me. You're Ashley?
Yes.
You were spending a great deal of time in the apartment?
Mm-hmm.
How many days? 5 days a week?
At least.
And where did you sleep?
In her bed.
Whose bed?
Tawny's bed.
Tawny's bed. And where did she sleep?
She slept in her bed also.
Did you pay rent?
No.
After the defendant moved out, did you continue to go there 5 days a week?
No.
Why not?
I was looking for a job over at my dad's house.
When did you stop going over there 5 days a week?
Right after all the mattress incident happened.
You mean right after August 27th?
Yeah.
That's miraculous. So you mean right after all of this happened, you stopped going over there 5 days a week?
Well, because the manager didn't want people over there that wasn't paying rent, and they said that you couldn't be over there more than 72 hours.
She didn't want any conflict, so I just stayed there by myself most of the time and just went out when I wanted to be with my friends.
What were you doing at that time? Go to school?
No, I just do housework and clean up at her house. She'd go to work and I'd stay there and do all the chores and laundry and clean.
We had planned.
What, are you kidding me or what? How old are you?
18.
You get over on this baloney with your family? Huh?
No.
So what makes you think you're going to get over with this baloney on me? I mean, do you think that they hire me because I'm stupid? No. You think that they pay me all this money because I'm an idiot? You want me to believe that you're a house cleaner in her house. Is that what you want me to believe?
That's what I do.
What? That's what you do?
Yeah.
No, she just stayed with me. She was trying to look for a job, and in the morning she'd clean up, and help me out.
What?
She was helping me out by
Are you a big slob? Why should you? You're one person. You're one person. Why should you need to have a brigade of people to take care of you?
I was just helping her out because she needed a job and she couldn't stay with her dad, so she stayed with me a lot.
Right. That wasn't the arrangement, Tawny, my dear. The arrangement with her is it's her apartment and yours. You want her to pay half the rent. You pay half the rent. The two of you live there, not the two of you and anybody that you feel sorry for. So for half the time that she was paying rent and not living there, she was living there. And then miraculously, Miss Smarty Pants says that the day after this incident, when she left, she all of a sudden decided she could stay at home with her parents.
She actually went and stayed with her grandma for a while.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're talking to your parents?
Yes.
Great. Keep that open. That's the one constant that you have.
And later today,
he got very angry because I wasn't interested in dating him. He threatened my job. He threatened my life. He said, I know where you work. I know where you live. And I hung up the phone on him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tawny Tillinghast says her former best friend, Tiffany Stott, owes for breaking a lease. Tiffany says Tawny's partying forced her out.
She paid you. She came home. She found things going on there that she didn't like. People living there that weren't supposed to be living there. and she was gracious enough to pay you for 2 months, or a substantial part of it for 2 months, and she wasn't there at all.
She was never there to begin with.
I got it. I got it. That's why you had the apartment to yourself. You could invite anybody who you wanted to come on over and live there, which you did. So she was very nice to you. You should have started to advertise immediately when she moved out to get a new roommate. Did you do that?
I tried to see if any of my friends...
Did you advertise for a new roommate?
It was only a 1-bedroom. No one wants to share a 1-bedroom.
Okay. Now, are you pursuing your counterclaim for the ruined mattress?
I don't need to. Once she brought this upon me, I figured I might as well bring something upon her.
Well, by bringing it upon her, you're also visiting it upon Bird and me. You don't want to do that, do you?
No.
Perfect. What do you do?
I'm an office manager.
You're talking to your parents?
Yes.
Great. Keep that open. That's the one constant that you have. Okay?
Okay.
Good. You withdrawing your claim for the mattress?
Yes.
Perfect. And your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This girl is my best friend since I've known her forever. She let some 60-year-old man change her into someone she was not.
I remember telling Tiffany, I said, watch it because Tanya is kind of wild.
Pot, smoking.
I did party. What can you say? I'm like a regular 20-year-old. I'm not like a 20-year-old dating a 60-year-old man.
She was arrested at Mervyn's for stealing merchandise, and she was ordered to pay.
She used to be sweet. Now she calls me and yells and harasses me on the phone with him whispering in the background, telling her what to say, you know.
Tanya said she had changed. That's fine. But obviously she hadn't changed.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Haynes versus Lang. Step forward, please.
County Inspector Douglas Haynes is suing his former friend, event coordinator Kimberly Lang, for the return of furniture he loaned her. Kimberly claims Douglas gave her the furniture.
Mr. Haynes, you and the defendant had a friendship, according to what I read. You met at a car dealership and you had dinner a couple of times. And it is your claim that you loaned the defendant some furniture that you had because you were doing some remodeling in your house or garage. And you now want the furniture back.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Lang says that you never loaned her this furniture. You said that you were getting rid of it, but you'd like to have it. She said yes. She did in fact take the furniture because she was new to the area and didn't have any furniture that she had brought with her. That it was not a loan, but a gift. First, show me the furniture that you allegedly loaned to her. I see two people, one with a beard and his shirt open, and one lady with glasses on.
Those are my previous neighbors, and that's the stereo cabinet behind them.
And then we have a brass bed.
Yes.
Okay. Two dressers, I see. What about this sofa? You want this back?
No, it's 23 years old.
Looks as if it was 23 years old. How long did you know Miss Lang before you loaned her this furniture?
Approximately 1 month.
And tell me the circumstances surrounding your loaning her the furniture.
Well, I'm putting an addition on my garage plus a room on top, and there was some heavy beams I had to remove. I didn't want to damage it, so I was going to put it in storage. And Kimberly didn't have any furniture yet. So I mentioned that, well, if she can store it for me and use it, then that would help me out. And on January 2nd, we delivered the furniture, but I noticed that she already had two dressers. And then we had some disagreements, and
Could you look at me?
Oh, okay. We had some disagreements, and we were going to meet for breakfast.
Could you look at me? Straight on. I mean, I don't want to embarrass you if you have something wrong with your neck. I just want you to look over here so I can tell what your eyes are telling me in addition to what your mouth is telling me, Mr. Haynes.
Okay. And on January 13th, we were going to meet for breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't show up, and it upset me. So I went over to see her, and I decided that I didn't want any more to do with the relationship, and I called her up and said, I don't want to do this anymore. May I have my furniture back? And she did call me on the 17th and said I could not have the furniture back, that I made a big mistake and I blew it, and also that I'd have to take her to court to get the furniture back.
Who is this person?
This is my sister, and she had two conversations with Kimberly when we were delivering the furniture.
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
Sandra Haynes.
Who delivered the furniture to Miss Lang?
My brother and Kimberly both.
What did you have to do with it?
Doug was telling me, with Kimberly there, that Kimberly had agreed to store his furniture, and it was a convenient situation because she had no furniture, and so it kind of helped them both out.
Okay. That's it?
That's it. They didn't stay that long.
Do you have any other conversation with her?
Yes, I did.
When?
I believe after she got back from Los Angeles on the 17th. I called her because she had let Doug know that day that he was not getting back his furniture. So I asked Kimberly, why aren't you giving my brother back his furniture? And she said that she was angry at Doug. Doug was angry at her. She got her parents involved. They didn't want her having anything to do with him, and it was out of her hands. Number two, yes, this was payback time. She had to get back at my brother because of breaking.
Don't tell me breaking up. I'm not interested.
Yes.
I just want to know what she said to you and what you said to her.
Conversation. And I said, I do not understand. Why can't we just come over and pick up the furniture? It has sentimental value. It's my parents' old wedding set.
And she said?
She said she'd think about it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now I'll hear you.
Okay. I had met Doug 2 times prior to that date at the car dealership that I worked at. He was a customer. He had subsequently made a phone call to me that he had some furniture that he needed to get rid of, and he knew from our previous conversation that I had an empty apartment and that my stuff was in storage in Orange County. Asked me if I'd be interested in coming by and taking a look at the furniture because he needed to get rid of it. He was doing this remodel. I went by there. It was either the 31st or the 1st of December, or January 1st. Looked at the furniture. The next day was when he actually delivered it to my place. I did drop by his sister's house, yes, and met her for the first time, but I was quite surprised that Doug had already explained to her the arrangement that was made with the furniture because she seemed to know what was going on. The furniture was not a loan. It was actually a gift. And so I wasn't at liberty to explain to her what was going on, but I was quite surprised that she understood what was going on.
Just a second.
Sure.
She suggested to you that the furniture was a loan or a gift?
No. She stated, so my brother delivered the furniture this morning, yes. And how does it look, and did you set it up, and so forth. And I explained to her at the time we did set up the bed. At that point, it was pouring rain. We had a mattress in the back of Doug's truck that was being delivered to my parents. I was sleeping on the floor on a mattress. So we stopped by her house on the way to my parents to drop off that mattress. I didn't hear from Doug again until the 17th of January. I got back from Orange County. There was a message on my machine, and at that point was when he asked me to dinner. I refused to have dinner with him, and I was not interested in dating Doug. He got very angry because I wasn't interested in dating him, and he started demanding his furniture back. I don't know why he was getting upset with me at that point. He threatened my job. He threatened my life. He says, I know where you work. I know where you live. This is going to escalate, and he made some threats, and I hung up the phone on him. That's when his sister called me.
Miss Lang, yes. You sound like an intelligent lady.
Thank you.
He sounds, according to you, like a nut.
Yes.
And the only nexus that you had to this nut was these pieces of furniture that you had had for 15 days.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So if I were being a smart person, I would say to myself, miscommunication, it was a gift and now he wants it back, but he's a real nut and he's threatening me. Douglas, get a police officer, get your truck, come over and get your furniture. We now have nothing to do with each other. There is no reason for you to call me. There's no reason for you to have anything to do with me. That's what a smart person says.
Under normal circumstances?
Not a stupid person who says, now I'm dealing with a nut.
You're right.
And I have furniture that I've had for 2 weeks. Furniture that belonged to your parents may have some sentimental value to you, sir. It's junk. I mean, I've looked at it. It's junk. The only thing that looks anywhere that somebody might want to keep is this brass bed. And I may not be a furniture maven, but I have a pretty good eye. The only value that bedroom set has is sentimental value, because other than that, it has no value. Now,
Your Honor, I do have. When I went to Orange County, when I rented a pickup truck, and I do have a receipt here that shows when I actually picked up the truck and when I actually returned it, there was furniture that I left behind because now I had an apartment full of furniture. I now had 2 dressers, a bed, a coffee table, a couch. There were things that I left behind in storage. So when
Are you telling me, Ms. Lang, that the couch you left behind was not as nice?
No, I didn't have
just a second. The couch that you left behind was not as nice as this couch? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's not what I'm saying. I did not have a couch in storage.
Right. I mean, I was a little confused. Give him back his furniture. Now!
Thank you.
And say, I'm going to borrow that mattress from my parents again if I have to have a mattress to sleep on. But I don't want Mr. Haynes in my life. I don't want his sister in my life. I don't want this nut calling my job. I just want it over. And I'm going to give him back his parents' furniture so he can put his underwear in it, and give him back his brass bed so he can sleep on it. And I don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. Is that fine, Douglas?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect.
568 on the calendar in the matter of Rast versus Trenholm. Thank you. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You're welcome. Have a seat, y'all.
Mr. Trenholm, you and the plaintiff knew each other. She was buying a condo or a co-op?
I had previously bought it. I bought it in February.
And you made an arrangement with her for you to rent a room in her condo. According to Miss Rast's complaint, she was going to be out of town for a few days prior to your moving in.
Yes, Your Honor.
But because you were friends, she said, why don't you move in some of your stuff even before the lease period starts? I'm not going to be there. So far, are we on the same page?
Well, no, Your Honor. Actually, she said that I could move into the premises early myself.
Oh, that
To be
was even
a tenant.
nice. Just a second, that was even nicer.
Yes.
Chinatown. Mm-hmm. So she was a great gal, and you moved in. When did you move in?
On the 13th
Of
June
of
2004.
And what furniture did you move in with, sir?
I moved in a guitar. I moved in a...
Just a second. Can you sit on it?
No.
What
You could, but I
furniture
don't
did
think
you
that would be
move in?
comfortable.
I said.
I moved a portable fold-out chair that turned into a bed. I moved in a couple of other chairs, some lamps.
Clothes?
Clothes. There's a couple bags of clothes there. And then...
Bags? You mean suitcases?
Yeah,
or
suitcases.
shopping
I had packed all my clothes up.
Now, at some point, you had a few guests over.
Yes, Your Honor.
When was that?
That was on June 18th. It was a few days prior to my birthday, and I invited a few friends over to watch the Red Sox game and celebrate my birthday.
So you were at that point a tenant.
Yes.
How much rent had you paid?
None.
Tenants pay rent.
They do, but we had no written
Mr.
contract,
Trenholm.
Your Honor.
You don't have to have a written contract, Mr. Trenholm. You can be a month-to-month tenant without it. But as long as your behind is in her apartment and you say that you were going to be a lessee, you're a tenant.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tenants pay rent.
But she had told me verbally, we had a verbal agreement that I could move in early, and that would not be the case because she knew that I was already in another lease. So it was in her goodwill that she allowed me to move in.
So you weren't a tenant.
I guess legally, no.
You were an invited guest.
I was a guest.
I love when I can reel them in. I love when they get reeled in like fish. Remember, Bert, do you remember when you were a kid, they had those games at, I don't know if you ever went to Coney Island. You go to Coney Island? They had those fish tanks, and they gave you a fishing pole with a magnet at the end, you know, and you leaned over and you tried to catch as many as you could.
Yeah.
I liked that game as a child. All right, now back
Bigger
to you,
fish.
Mr. Trenholm. So you had a few guests over to celebrate. What national holiday were we celebrating on the 18th of June?
My 22nd birthday, Your Honor.
Did you provide libation for this group?
Meaning? You'll have to forgive me, Your Honor.
Libation, drink.
I'm a music student.
Drink,
Yes, yes.
drink, libation. It's a word. It's English.
Yes.
What kind of libation did you provide for this group?
I didn't go out and buy any because there wasn't going to be high volumes of people there. Most of my friends, the few that came over, brought their own. It was kind of like a bring your own alcohol type of thing.
Give me the approximate age of these people that you invited over.
The youngest one was me being 22, going up to the oldest one, Mike, who was 26.
How many were 22?
3.
How many were 23?
2, I believe. I think maybe 123, 124, actually.
And how many were 25?
None.
You were the oldest.
He has my age wrong. I was actually 24, and my girlfriend is 26.
One girlfriend.
Yes.
She looks young.
Oh, shh. I'm not finished. Your name is?
Mike Schaefer.
Mike. Step up here, Mike. Mike, how did your girlfriend feel being the only woman there?
She wasn't the only woman there, actually.
Really? She wasn't the only woman there?
No, she wasn't.
How many women were there?
4 or 5.
4 or 5, including your girlfriend or excluding your girlfriend?
Including, I'd estimate.
So let's say there were 5 women. We have Mr. Trent home, who was celebrating his birthday. He's one person. Then we have 3 other 22-year-olds. That makes 4 people. Couple of little older. That makes 6 people. You're 7. 7 and 5 women. 12 people.
I invited 6 people, and a few of them brought friends. Girlfriends.
Oh, well, that's why I was just looking here, because you seemed to suggest that there were just a few people. So that's a big gathering. And all these people brought their own alcohol.
Yep.
What did they do for food?
We ordered some pizza. There's a pizza place right across the street.
Okay, what time did your friends leave?
The majority of them left that evening, but Mike and his girlfriend and 2 of my other friends stayed.
Where did they sleep?
There's 2 pull-out couches in the living room of the apartment, so they stayed there, and I slept on the fold-out chair in my room.
What time did you get up in the morning?
It was relatively early, I believe 8 a.m., because I had to work that day as well.
What time do you have to be at work?
Noon. It was in New Hampshire. I had to travel.
So you had to get dressed to go to work?
Yes.
That didn't give you much opportunity to clean up.
I actually cleaned with my friends.
Yes.
Did you?
My girlfriend and my 2 female friends.
Do you have any proof of what your place looked like?
Oh,
when
I
you
do,
came home?
absolutely.
I'd like to see it, please.
I do have some pictures. And somebody,
Let's see
I just
what
want
kind of a cleaner Michael is.
I do want to say that somebody did sleep in my bed, and somebody had sex in my bed as well. There's nothing more humiliating than cleaning up somebody's used condom in the morning.
Miss Rast?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I'm a student. I'm a full-time student, and I was working as a waitress at the time.
Okay. What are you studying?
I'm studying psychology.
What year are you in?
I am a junior now.
You seem like a relatively smart young woman. You've taken the basic
try.
psychology 101 and 103 and all those other psychology
Well, I can
classes.
spot us when I meet one.
All right. Miss Rast, let me tell you this. Okay, without using profanity, it's really not necessary all the time. Sometimes using a butter knife to kill somebody is really much more fun than using, you know, a really sharp-edged tool.
That might be
true. It takes
true.
a lot longer.
A spoon.
Trust me, it works. A spoon works just as well. But what you should have learned so far in your studies is that a 22-year-old male has the equivalent age of a 7-year-old female.
That might even be a stretch.
And this one is 24. What do you do for a living?
I'm a loan officer at a mortgage company in New
You're
Hampshire.
a loan officer. Do you have a home?
I do.
Well, on the 18th of June, why didn't you go to your own home instead of staying over? Is not an answer.
It was late. I believe it was about 2 in the morning, and we have to drive about an hour, so I thought it was safer to stay.
Why?
Because
Isn't it nicer to sleep in your own bed and wake up in your own bed in the morning?
it certainly is, but I'd hate to be on the roads tired.
How about drunk?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
No one slept in her bedroom.
She didn't say that they slept in her bedroom. She said that they had sex in her bedroom. There's a difference. That only takes, unfortunately, sometimes a split second.
And later today,
Some guy threatened to kill him, put a gun to his head.
Is he still around or is he in jail?
He's still around.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Caroline Rast says former friend Derek Trenholm owes for damages to her condo as the result of a party. Derek says the lawsuit is revenge for breaking up with Caroline's friend.
I don't know what this is here. You want to tell me what this is?
Oh, that, if there's spots, that's a picture of my wall. That's beer on the wall.
Why is he smiling? Bird, would you ask him why he's smiling?
Why are you smiling?
Because if you had seen the condition of the place the next morning after we cleaned it, you would realize how ridiculous it was that looks.
I am an extremely OCD person. My
well, let me
house
tell you
is
something.
immaculate.
Oh, and these stains were on your sofa?
That's my sofa stain.
Oh. And how many used condoms did you clean up?
Just the one, but that's
in your bedroom?
Pretty vile enough, yes.
You're absolutely right. Now, you brought that computer.
Yes.
Want to tell me why you brought the computer?
Whenever I leave my apartment, whenever I'm not in town, I close the computer up so it was like this and turned off when I left. I'm very protective of my computer. It has a lot of my work in it. And when I returned, the computer was open and it was on. And I do not use AOL Instant Messenger. I use just straight AOL. And Instant Messenger had been downloaded into my computer, and some people had used it, and I do have their screen names, so I do have evidence that they were on my computer. When I went to check my email, the computer was in a pool of beer. It looked like somebody had just wiped the front of it, but had not bothered to pick it up. I managed to get most of it out with a Q-tip. However, right in the mouse pad, there's still some beer that's visible if you look at it. And when the computer starts to heat up, the mouse sticks and doesn't work. And also the keys right here, they're broken, and the F4 is missing. So they're kind of glued on right now, just for functional purposes.
How much did you pay for that computer?
I want to say it was about $1,200. My dad bought it for me as a graduation gift from high school.
What do you have to say for yourself, sir?
Well, the computer she showed to me when I came back after the party, and she said, somebody
spilled beer all over
That's what she said. And she's pointing at it saying, there's beer all over it, it's broken. And I'm looking at it saying, like, how can you possibly say that? There's nothing on it. There's no marks, there's no liquid, there's no
What
stickiness.
about your friends who used it?
I don't know if any of my friends used it. There was very few people there. I'd be surprised if that's the case.
I can show him the screen
So
names.
she's got a few screen names written down. It's completely ridiculous. After this incident, she told me, you know, you broke my computer. I can't believe you did that. My password was stored in there for AOL. 2 weeks later, she deleted my AOL account. I signed on, it was gone.
There's no way I can...
Just a second.
She deleted my AOL, she deleted my mail, she deleted my address book, she deleted my buddy list, and she deleted all the documents that were contained within my filing cabinet.
Show me.
I can't. There's no way to do that if somebody deletes your stuff.
There's no...
What about the beer stains all over her couch?
Those were not there when we left. It's complete fabrication. This is more about a personal vendetta.
What about the condom in her bed, sir?
That's completely false, too. That's a complete lie.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
I changed. Not 7, 6. 6.
I told you it might be
6.
an
You know what he
exaggeration.
didn't learn? He didn't learn from his parents when they said, when you do something wrong, you have to say, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No one slept in her bedroom.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me tell you something. She didn't say that they slept in her bedroom. She said that they had sex in her bedroom. There's a difference. That only takes, unfortunately, sometimes a split second.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Trentholm, you don't need 8 hours to use a condom. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, my only problem with Miss Rast, and I want to tell you something, Miss Rast, you see, I have a big problem with you, and the problem is you're only suing him for $780.
That's a problem.
As far as I'm concerned, he has to replace that computer that cost $1,200. He would have to replace these couches, according to what I see here, because you're never going to get those stains out. So I don't have to go any further. For some reason,
What about the money
decide,
she
I'm
tried to-
speaking! For some reason, you decided to be kind to Mr. Trentholm, something that I certainly wouldn't do under the circumstances, and sue him only for a nominal amount of money, which I am pleased and joyful about being able to award you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $780. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I should have been suing him for a whole lot more for the cost of the computer to get fixed, as well as the damage in the apartment.
When you tell big enough lies, people listen to that over the truth.
I think that she just decided she'd lie and so that she would win the case.
I don't care if he was having, tea with the Queen. I don't care if he was having lunch with the Mafia. The moral of the story is he damaged my apartment, and he should have to pay for that.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Langari versus Cologne. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Nydia Langari is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old promoter Hector Cologne, for money loaned and the cost of a necklace.
Miss Langari, this young man used to be a boyfriend of yours, and you, according to you, loaned him some money. One small loan was for him to remain alive since somebody was after him because he owed them money. And the other loan was for some clothes that he wanted, clothes and shoes and stuff. And then you found out that he wasn't the man that you thought he was.
Exactly.
And you want a necklace back that you let him borrow.
Which I believe he pounded.
Now, Mr. Cologne says that you're crazy about him, and you gave him the money, and it was a gift. There was never any promise to pay you back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you are a special guy. You are a prize package. You are a unique man. Prime property.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nydia Langari says ex-boyfriend Hector Cologne owes for loans and a lost necklace.
When did you first start to date this Prince Charming?
In December 23rd, 2004.
When did you make the first loan to him?
I think 2 weeks after, when he told me that some guy threatened to kill him, put a gun to his head, and he was telling me this story, and I offered to borrow the money, and he said he would pay me within 2 weeks.
Tell me about the loan that you had with this guy who put a gun to your head?
I was doing something for him and whatever.
No, I want you to be specific. I'm really interested. You were doing something for him. What were you doing?
I was selling drugs for him or whatever.
Okay, so he gave you drugs that you sold.
Yeah, and I supposed to owe him money. I spend the money. I owe them money.
What kind of drugs did you sell for him?
Weed.
Just marijuana.
Yeah.
How much did you sell?
It was pounds of it.
Do you love this? Do you love this, Sheena? Remember that fishing game that I discussed with you?
Yeah.
The fishing poles and the magnets? Mr. Cologne, you sold pounds of marijuana for this guy. You made the money, and then you went and you spent it on something else. What'd you spend it on?
Clothes.
So you bought clothes with it. Didn't you think that that was a dangerous thing to do? How long had you known this guy?
For like 2-3 years.
Did you sell for him retail or wholesale? Shh, quiet! Did you sell in bulk to other people or little bits? Little bits. On a street corner or from your house?
They used to call me.
So you had regular customers?
Yeah.
Okay, so he had threatened to kill you
Yeah.
with a gun. How old are you?
I'm 21.
Do you have children? Yeah. Ooh, I knew you were going to say that. I knew he was going to say. How many children do you have?
I got one daughter
Where does she live?
with her mother in New York.
Okay. So you took the money from her and she gave you the what, $150?
180.
And you gave it to the drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Is he still around or is he in jail?
He's still around.
What's his name?
His name is...
And you gave back his money.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were back in business.
No, after that, I started working in a restaurant.
Oh, that's good. So you went legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Good. When you started working, why didn't you give her back the money?
Because she said that to not worry about it as long as I'm safe. She never said to pay her back.
That's a lie.
Okay. Now, what about the clothes that you bought for him?
He just told me to borrow the money, that's all. So he said he was going to give it back to me in 2 weeks.
Go ahead.
I used to pick up at work sometimes on my day off, and she used to give me money here and there. She used to not tell me to pay her back. She used to say, don't worry about it.
What'd she say? Just here, take this and go buy yourself something?
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? She was seriously in love with me.
That's a lie.
Okay. Now, what about the chain?
The chain, when she gave it to me, we was in her house or whatever, and she was not even supposed to have people in her house. We got caught in her house, and her mother was saying stuff in Spanish that she never raised up her daughter to have guys in the house or whatever. And the chain was already loose, and I never pawned her chain. It was
You just lost it?
I lost it. I was in the club, and it was loose, and I lost it.
Did she give it to you, or did she let you borrow it?
No, she gave it to me and said, there's a chain, so when you lay down, like when I go to sleep, to think about me.
Let me tell you something, Miss Lingara. Mr. Cologne, whatever he is, he's not a liar. I can tell you that right now, because right now he has acknowledged that he committed felonies for the last 3 years. Anybody that would acknowledge to me that he has been a drug dealer for a very long time, sold marijuana, bought it wholesale, sold it retail, is not going to lie to me about a stupid thing like $150 that you gave him or some clothes that you bought for him. It's not. Put your hand down. You're winning. So I have to decide whether these things that you gave him were gifts or they were loans. I don't think that they were loans. You got angry with him, according to you, because you found that he was lying to you, that he had a child, that he had a woman.
And that's the when I started to avoid him. I stopped the relationship.
Good.
Because I didn't want to be with somebody.
Miss Lingara, that was very, very smart. I think you should stay away from Mr. Cologne until you're really certain that he is gone legit. But these monies that you gave him, I don't believe were loans. I don't believe it, because I have to decide who's lying. And anybody so stupid as to acknowledge in front of 8 million people that he's a drug dealer is not going to lie to me about a couple of dollars in loans. Thank you very much.
Bodies are excused.
Sản phẩm mình đang cầm trên tay đây là kem tẩy da chết cô con. Thì những cái thành phần chính đó là từ những cái hạt cà phê Đắk Lắk và những cái hạt bơ, cacao, hạt cà phê và tinh chất dừa. Thì đối với dòng tẩy da chết cô con thì 100% là thuần chay, 100% vegan, không thử nghiệm trên động vật, không cồn, không sulfat, không dầu khoáng, không paraben, không vị hạt nhựa, là những cái thành phần mà vô cùng là an toàn với làn da của chúng ta. và hạt cà phê nguyên chất từ Đắk Lắk kết hợp cùng với bơ cacao, Tiền Giang sẽ giúp làm sạch da chết trên cơ thể của chúng ta, mang lại cho chúng ta một cái làn da mềm mịn, trắng sáng, rạng rỡ và trong tràn đầy sức sống cho cái làn da của chúng ta. Và cách dùng thì chúng ta sẽ lấy một cái lượng sản phẩm vừa đủ lên. Và đối với dòng tẩy da chết của con thì trước khi muốn tẩy da chết chúng ta phải làm ướt da, sau đó chúng ta sẽ massage nhẹ nhàng để cho tất cả các cái bụi bẩn, những vết da sần sùi ở trên da của chúng ta được lấy đi hết. Sau đó chúng ta sẽ tắm lại bằng nước sạch. Như vậy là chúng ta đã có một cái làn da cực kỳ là mịn màng, sạch sẽ và mềm mại. Thì đối với dòng tẩy da chết của con là nó rất là an toàn và lành tính, bởi nó không chứa các cái chất tẩy, và đặc biệt là 100% là thuần chay, một trong những cái dòng sản phẩm tẩy da chết quốc dân mà chị em chúng ta không nên bỏ qua.